Okay, we are live, 3:33 p.m. Mountain Time, 8/2/2024. Just a couple of days away from the big one, the real Trump head wound. The ear piercing was just a warm-up. So the next thing's coming. So we'll talk about that and other updates in the news, like Kyle Rittenhouse has turned his back on Trump. After Trump just got shot at, he turned his back on Trump and now he's supporting Ron Paul because of Ron Paul's Second Amendment opinions, but that's creating something of a minor controversy. More engagement slash outrage bait from the Olympics, and anything in the Olympics, to me, if it makes the news, the headlines, except for just the athletics itself, it's probably a psyop. The Dionysius Last Supper, yeah, that's a psyop. Everything they're doing is meant to trigger people, and now you have this fight with these two individuals, and it's got everybody confused. And the most confused people on earth are the transvestigationists. I was talking to one today, and I was like, I feel sorry for your dog. You probably feed it cat food and expect it to use a litter box. But the media traffics in confusion and chaos. They have to maintain the inner war. And what I wanted to talk about today also is this. I woke up this morning to a new track by Marilyn Manson had just been posted. And we've been following Marilyn Manson since his involvement with Kanye West, or Ye, at the 2/22/2022 on a Tuesday Donde 2 event, the record release party, and the significance of that with the return of Pluto, the symbol of the Kraken, and the burning house. All of this seems really relevant to right now anyway. So for Manson to show up again, and I'll explain why I think the track coming out is significant, especially now. Again, 2 days away from August 4th, a date we've all been awaiting. And if you look here, first of all, the whole Trump head wound thing is all about the Antichrist and the right eye wound. And one of the things Manson has done since probably from his first album, one of his signature trademark looks is the accentuated right eye. And this is, of course, Antichrist Superstar. So he releases this new track, and the single has a shard of glass, like a broken mirror, actually. And it looks like Nevada. So that stands out right away, because I was just looking at some recent predictive programming from Call of Duty Black Ops Nuketown, which seems to have some references to Las Vegas. But anyway, here we are looking at the face of the Antichrist on Nevada, and I was reminded that his other album a few years ago he released this track called Coma White, and we've discussed this one because in Coma White he plays the role of JFK, and he gets assassinated. And the album drops, and they release the video, and then they hold off on it streaming on MTV. They said, no, we have to apologize because we didn't mean to be insensitive. Because shortly after the album, the Coma White dropped, JFK Jr. crashed and died. And there's a statement by Marilyn Manson about having no idea that was going to happen. But what is the significance of this? The significance is that the Coma White song is not just about Manson as JFK, with JFK on a cross being worshipped as the second Christ, but that the masses were now waiting for the third Jesus, who's going to be JFK Jr., presumably. So weirdly, the entire QAnon narrative, their whole JFK worship, was pretty evident in Marilyn Manson's video for a song, which was based on a script he wrote called Hollywood, which has never been published or released. So again, Manson has some interesting connections to Kubrick all around, many references in his work to Stanley Kubrick, but specifically this, him as JFK, the one eye stuff, and of course, one other point, because of the controversy with him and Rachel Woods from Westworld, I think he was dropped from his label, but he was picked up by Nuclear Blast Records. So you have the nuke thing, again, brought up in conjunction with Vegas. So all of this stands out to me as notable. And then to add to it, we've talked about this at length, and we may go back and visit this. There was a story between Evan Wood and Marilyn Manson. And the story was that she's suing him or something, bringing up allegations of being an abusive boyfriend back when they were together. But interestingly, she plays Dorothy in Westworld, who's persecuted by the Man in Black. And the Man in Black and Dorothy have this dynamic. In fact, he even threatens to kill her father, and I think he does repeatedly because she relives the same nightmarish scenarios every day. But there's a mirroring between Dorothy, the Man in Black, and the Evan Woods and Rachel Woods and Marilyn Manson. So just to refresh you on this, this was from 2022. Is it Evan Rachel Wood? Okay, Evan Rachel Wood. So she's in Westworld, and she's in this dynamic with the Man in Black, and I'm saying that the Man in Black represents Hades. And in fact, I just Googled Man in Black, and look, what do you have side by side? So these are not unintentional correlations here. So you have Rachel Wood and the Man in Black from Westworld, and then there she is next to Marilyn Manson, who is in black. And one of the subtexts to her role in Westworld is she is Persephone in the underworld, having been kidnapped by Hades, which is again this Man in Black. And the season finale, Ed Harris, interestingly, Ed Harris, who's Kristoff in the Truman Show, so he plays this kind of a demiurge type character that someone has to overcome. But fascinatingly, season 4 begins on the Hoover Dam, and that whole season ends with something of an EMP, and there's all kinds of Space Needle symbolism throughout it. So again, this album dropping 2 days before Trump stands out for that reason, and one other reason. We've often seen the correlation between the upcoming head wound and the nuke. These things have always been somewhat represented side by side. So I think we could tie in the Westworld Hoover Dam, the EMP, but also the distance between Butler, Pennsylvania and Palestine, Ohio is 42 miles. And this was highlighted by a Washington Times article saying that the 42 miles between Butler and Palestine are the most important right now in American politics, which is a strange headline. But the connection, Palestine, Ohio, had the mushroom cloud. Butler had the head wound. So again, you have this connection between the mushroom cloud and the head wound, and it's kind of built into the Nuclear Blast Records release with all the Westworld tie-ins. So we'll see where this goes, but I'm just pointing out that the shape of the mirror had me going down this particular route. Let me see who is here in the chat. We just got started a little early today. HBIC, Symbia, 3 up, 3 down. Symbia waving with a blue penguin. I just went to the zoo here, and they have these little penguins. They just opened up the exhibit, and I got a sneak peek at it. I may open up or upload some videos later, but they swim exceedingly fast. I mean, I had to use slow-mo to capture them, but they're about the size of like water bottles. And they just opened this up. I guess they're from Australia, but they're blue. Little blue penguins. Here we go. ABQ Biopark opens new Australia exhibit featuring little penguins. It should be done by the end of the year, the whole setup. But yeah, I didn't get to see them walking around, and they swam too fast for me to capture them except in slow-mo. But if you're on the newsletter, I'll send some pictures. I meant to do watercolor, so I kind of felt stupid. I'm there with my...
Thank you for feeding the Kraken Symbia.
I'm there.
The IPS appreciates the support.
Yes, very much. Feed the penguins. Feed the crack, Gwen. So I had my watercolors there, and they were moving too fast. There was just no way. P. Trippa says, hoping to listen to replay later, hopefully open phones. Yes, we will, likely. Ted Striker 2112 says, this song needs more cowbell. That would be Auto Hoax or GTFO. Joined by Watchdog, who went out to Palestine, Ohio. See, that's PSYOP. Watchdog he went there with a press pass, and it was just a movie set, nothing really to see. But that was foreshadowing, I think, for what's to come, in addition to being a follow-up to Netflix White Noise, which is kind of like Leave the World Behind in many ways. But they have merged. I've been saying for a few days now that this is Planet Netflix, situated in the Disney universe. And Netflix is a pretty good indicator of what's to come. Flozik, Lord Laney, Napoleon Wilson. Says yesterday's audio was fantastic, mate. Remembering 42 Messier is the scientific name for Oz Messiah. If you want to call in and specify what you mean by this, I am very interested because the number 42 is something that we constantly see in these various psyops. Okay, the Orion Nebula, Messier 42 with an unaided eye from a dark night sky. Okay, so that is the Orion Nebula. So that's associated with the number 42. Now that is significant for a few reasons. One, Osiris is Orion, the constellation, and Osiris is correlated with Saturn, the god of the earth, the underworld, and the symbol of the obelisk. And the number 42 is pretty much associated with this. There's this dynamic we've seen between the symbols, light and dark, the number 33, the number 42, consistent in all the psyops, as I can point out time and again, but they have a meaning that you can derive from the context, not from some gematria calculator or some new age book, but just from context. And the context is very consistent. Bach Precision says Kyle Rittenhouse is flipped again. Now he's pro-Trump. Well, do you remember when he was a white hat? We were waiting for Q to send the white hats to save us from the riots, and then Kyle Rittenhouse is 17, which is Q. He has a white hat on at a Trump rally, and the next day he stops the riots in Kenosha. And if you're not on Team Kyle, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, I don't necessarily like the fact that he's become a right-wing grifter, but the fact that he went to shut down a riot, and he took out a pedo, a strangler, and he shot the bicep off of a communist burglar. Like, how is that not a win? Okay, let's see. Going through your comments. Joe Fior, Cub Star, thank you for joining. XG. Yeah, this is definitely early today. This is early. I tend to get very busy on Fridays. Things go nuts, and I'm working on the legal case versus Google. And I'm not sure the next step, what's going to happen, but I have a pretty good idea. They're fighting. See, Google wants to say, we didn't do it. Goldfinch did it. It doesn't matter. He used a Google employee. I have the email exchange. If I didn't have that confessional, this would have been dismissed. I mean, I have a hook in the mouth of this. It's a monster of a case. It really is. And it'll be a disaster for everyone involved. So I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And every bit of response, every feedback is a step forward. I've been doing this since 2018, suing YouTube, suing Google, attempting to figure out how do you find or how do you sue somebody that you don't know, and you don't know their name, and they might not even be in America. So it's been a learning process, but every single move we've made has brought us closer to the goal. And here we are, awaiting a Halloween pretrial hearing to talk about discovery, and then when we can schedule dates. And hopefully they'll settle before it goes to trial, but I'd be happy to go to trial. To me, it's a win either way, and the facts support my claim. Nobody disputes the facts. So last night, I went ahead and just sent in a motion for summary judgment, and I pointed out that there's no way Google can worm their way out of this. I didn't use that language, but that's pretty much what I mean. They're trying to dodge responsibility, which is pathetic. It really is pathetic on their part. They should have looked at this and said, oh, this is terrible. How can we help? They're the company providing a service, and they really enabled a significant disservice. How is it not going to blow up in their faces? Hank G says, miniaturized penguins that can fit in your pocket. Yep. Portal says, also foreshadowing the genocide in Palestine. Yeah, if you believe that. I tend not, when people say genocide, I tend to just tune it out. It's like, well, I mean, which genocide? Because if you believe in one genocide, then you don't believe in the other. The chemtrail people say, genocide, we're being genocided. It's like, you're not being genocided by chemtrails. And then you have the white genocide people, and Nick Fuentes is like, white genocide. It's like, you're not a target. If they implement your Agenda 2025, you're being deported, Mr. Fuentes. But yeah, the term genocide's overused. And I don't take sides on the political horseshoe because I'm not in their mind control box. Mazel says, I think they're going to push hard for a settlement. We'll see. AJ says, except no less than 850K. I would settle for $1, an apology, and Marcus Goldfinch's head on a charger, on a silver platter. Or impaled on a spike. I could roll with that. Napoleon Wilson, okay, thank you. The belt stars allude to the three wise men and Osiris losing his penis. The reason was, okay, attached to the Immaculate Conception and why Mother Mary is always in. Okay, I'd like you to call in and explain a little bit more about this. Astrotheology. Because the names change, but the story doesn't. This is why I was talking about Luke Skywalker hanging on the cross with his severed sword hand, and how he represented, in a way, that's basically Osiris or Christ. It's the hanging sun god. But that Darth Vader, even though he represents the sun god in death and he's the father of Luke, it's the same person. I mean, it's the personification of the cycle of night and day, where the sun god is reincarnating as himself. Does it make sense? No. Do any religious myths make sense? Wasn't Athena born from like the forehead of Zeus? Like, that's not anatomically possible. Nothing Major says, Mr. Popper's Penguins from 1938 might be worth a read. Check the cover. Will do. Linda says pocket penguins would sell. It's funny you say that. In fact, we have been talking about this for some time. A desktop personal assistant cyborg penguin with multiple features. I mean, I like laser eyes. It can heat up your coffee, but we'll take what we can get and build it up as we go. Iterations. Cyber Penguinati version 1, version 2, version 3, and eventually, it'll be a hover drone that follows you around. Plays music, reads audiobooks, does your transactions. Okay, continuing here. Lesko says, the one who cares less wins the negotiations. Your posture is perfect. Yeah, at this point, we crossed the line a long time ago because we're dealing with criminals. That's the bottom line. We're dealing with criminals connected to the government, connected to Donald Trump, weirdly, in the Q movement, but we're dealing with criminal actions. And this should have been handled by the FBI. I took my evidence to the FBI here. I must have gone there about 5 or 6 times. I've called so many different agencies, and all of them agreed with me. In fact, the FTC told me, oh, you're looking at 4th-degree felony identity theft. Mandatory prison sentences, huge fines. And I have multiple cases lined up. I'm also going to have to go after Spotify. Like, I haven't even talked about the can of worms I'm going to open once this gets a court date, because it's not about money, it's about winning at this point. Angst G says, Jim Fetzer interview seems like he believes in truth or counter-narrative white hat theories, where the good guys preemptively staged the shooting to head off the deep state bad guys. It's kind of silly. So is his take on the JFK assassination. Jim Fetzer's great. In fact, he might be one of the smartest people in Trutherville. Like, I always like listening to him. I wasn't even communicating with people online until I started looking closer at Dylan Roof, and I started decoding the story. And back then, I didn't know the stuff was fake. But then I'm looking at the pictures and I'm thinking, wait, this is too unbelievable. This is like obvious propaganda. And I actually called Jim Fetzer, and I was like, look at my findings here. Look at this picture. And I was discussing how you have this bowl cut shooter, and he's wearing a gold gym shirt, and he's got these like shoestrings hanging from his shoulders. Like, he's never been to the gym. So I'm like, well, could this be part of this toxic masculinity manosphere stuff they've been injecting since Elliot Rodger? And we were just talking about different shooters. So then I went on his show, and it was my first like live stream, but I was at a place with terrible internet, and so it never actually got published. But so I kind of got my start on media deconstruction in this form by talking to Jim Fetzer. And then he sent me a number of his books a few years later when I called him up with this offer, because he had just been kicked off Amazon for his book Nobody Died at SH. And I said, I've got this publishing company, let me go ahead and have one of our writers rewrite your nonfiction as a fiction and get past the censors. And as a joke, we'll put David Hogg on the cover and mash up his face with Adam Lanza. So immediately after his Sandy book got taken down because of censorship, he had another version of it put up that tells the same story. And the purpose of it was, I was like, look, let's not let them censor you. Let's just use fiction as kind of a cipher. And that book is called The Capstone Event by Jim Fetzer. So if you look at that, it's a fictional version of his banned book. And this was meant to be one of many. You know, my plan was, let's do non-stop fiction based on real interpretations, the real understanding of these various faked events. So here's The Capstone Event, and by Jim Fetzer. The first casualty of war, but what happens when the war is psychological and waged in secret? The book asks questions. What happens when truth itself is taken captive by powerful forces in high places? So this is, again, Capstone Event. Look at the cover art, kind of a inside joke. But he does have some opinions I don't agree with. And a fakeologist. A fakeologist did a really great job of asking him, you know, well, what do you think about the space station now that you've seen through the moon landing? And I think that he made the point that he hasn't looked, and I think that's plausible. However, his take on Trump you can only derive this take on it that he preemptively staged a shooting because the bad guys were going to do it, if you think he's actually fighting the deep state on behalf of JFK or Q or something. But I don't believe in the deep state. I reject that entire construct. I think there is the state. There's no shallow state. The state is just that. But his perspective is blinkered. Now, whether he's insulated or tricked or he's a gatekeeper, that's a matter of interpretation. I tend to think most people are insulated. That they're not really allowed to hang out with auto hoaxers. They rarely do. They don't cross paths. And what we do has always been fringed. Media skeptics have always been marginalized by truthers. Truthers are the ones who say, oh, don't ask questions yet. Give the victims time to finish mourning. And we're the ones to say, are they even victims? And that really went too far for a lot of truthers. RJ says, when your eyes are open, it's easy to see the playbook. Yeah, it really is. Like, I could have told you, well, I did say it. I said, wait for the second shooter. That truthers would be running laps around second shooters on water towers, second shooters in the Secret Service, or however they're going to frame it, where now it's like there were 6 different shooters, maybe 7, plus a drone, and they were going to drop a nuke and do a bomb. They keep piling on more because they're not satisfied with the mainstream explanation. And this is why I say alt media is MSM+. You have the mainstream version, and the guys who don't trust the mainstream keep adding on more narratives, more rabbit trails, until they feel like they have the truth. So MSM+ is a big pile of crap on top of an edifice of lies. What we're doing here is what I call MSM-. We question the official story as presented, all of its claims, unless they're backed up by facts. So instead of believing a lot of extra stuff, or maybe believing or having a lot of things to conjecture about, we're left with agnosticism, suspension of judgment. Ted Stryker says, Tim could alter the path of the election if he gets out before the election, MB being associated with Trump if it gets out. Oh, you mean, could this be disastrous? You know, I don't know if it would affect anything as far as predetermined outcomes. However, this is a bombshell of a story, and it's impossible to overstate. But when, not if, when Goldfinch's docs, by my efforts or by Hunter Biden's lawsuit's discovery process, when it's discovered that Q was in the White House, in Air Force One, in Mar-a-Lago, Trump's Tower, Bedminster, when people find out how integrated the Q movement was to Trump's campaign, they'll find out, wait, this was just a way for the GOP to dog whistle to conspiracy theorists? It was a hoax the whole time? They're going to be pissed. I mean, the QAnon shaman spent 27 months of a 42-month sentence in jail because, quote, Q sent me. You think Q would want to know who Q is? And then people are going to be colossally let down because Q just turns out to be some terrible actor who can't get any speaking roles but has like some way of always being brought onto these big movie sets. And then somehow got grafted into the Trump campaign. But the whole thing's a huge grift, especially when you get into George. And one more point. Where did this JFK Jr. coming back from the dead nonsense have its origin? This guy. So that all needs to get out. Plus, he's the guy that hacked Hunter Biden's computer. That's a huge point there, because that could open up Garrett Ziegler to criminal charges. And there was a little hint dropped recently. Hunter Biden was going to sue Fox News for using the stolen laptop information and pictures in one of their stories. Well, they retracted that lawsuit, and they said they're filing it again against, quote, new defendants. Well, who could these new defendants be? Maybe the hackers? And the mass media has not been able to determine who hacked those computers. And I've made it known to a lot of people who should know. So I'm just waiting to see what happens when this rises to the surface. But should this blow up, it'll also blow up YouTube's role in colluding with some shady government agent in suppressing our podcast here. I mean, I think it's a great story. There's a lot of different directions it can go. A lot of people are implicated. Wait until Truth or Veil finds out that Alex Jones knew this Q person from the very beginning. So many dishonest people. So yes, I'm hoping to kick a huge hornet's nest and then sick the hornets on my enemies. Rilo05 says, Bill Cooper was a shill too who faked his death. He had a ridiculous JFK theory and also predicted 9/11. Bill Cooper also set the stage for the false flag theory. He said there's going to be a lot of mass shootings and it's going to be false flags. Well, the false flag narrative has been misdirection from day one. If anyone saying that the phrase false flag doesn't know what they're talking about. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Infinite Planes, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on? How are you? Thank you for calling.
Yeah, no problem. I just wanted to get your opinion on this. Run this by. I've been listening to you. You're the other day when you said you were thinking about getting a Kamala Harris shirt. That was cracking me up.
Oh yeah, it'll be hideous. I'm gonna get it.
I was seriously gonna get it. But anyways, I wanted to get your opinion. So they're running this predictive programming and this concurrent program like decades in advance, going through all this meticulous stuff, to plan this all out with Hulk Hogan, the movies, the TV. Like, I don't even keep up. I don't know how you figure this all out, but then when it comes down to the event of Trump, like, they make the story so ridiculously, like, outlandishly stupid. Like, it don't make no sense to me. Like, that they would make it so unbelievable. Like, the guy's got a rangefinder and he's like scaling up a ladder all blatantly. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think they're doing this like just to like they're laughing about it, like throwing it in your face. Like,
I don't
know. I just want to get.
Okay, a lot of people have pointed out that there's an element of mockery. Even before we figured out what predictive programming was, there's mockery. There's duper's delight. There is that, and I think that might even be intentional. Part of it.
It has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be. They wouldn't make the story that cheesy. Like, they would come up with some elaborate, more believable script or whatever you want to call it. But it just, I don't see them making it that ridiculously dumb.
I think Michael Hoffman III, who wrote Secret Societies and Psychological Warfare, he made the point that when you're told to your face, if they're smiling, if they reveal it to you in some mocking way, it deepens the cognitive dissonance. So it could be that. It could be psychological warfare where It's like in a movie, a horror movie he compared it to, where the killer kind of drops a hint that they're the killer and it freezes the person, but they can't call it out. I think on some level they're revealing it, and it has to be a way of inducing a sense of surreality.
Sometimes I think, because have you seen the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd?
I saw it when I was a kid. I thought it was funny.
Like when I think the guy's name was Randolph and Mortimer or whatever. When they make a bet for $1 to see if they could turn like this homeless bum into like a successful businessman at the company, and turn Dan Aykroyd, the successful businessman, into the homeless criminal bum. And it's like just like entertainment to them. They're just doing it for laughs. Like I kind of feel like sometimes it's like that. Like they're just like doing it just for like they're just laughing about it. They gotta be.
Yeah, I think you may be onto something because we're dealing with something very sophisticated. We may mock their performances and their special effects, but we're talking about the most advanced propaganda slash religion worldview formation apparatus, which we call mass media. It's like the meta religion, and they have so much power and control, but you know the people who are operating this didn't build it. And so we're dealing with a different class, the programming class, and they must look at us with disdain. And I think this would explain a lot of the what I'd say is mockery because like we see January 6th and we're appalled and shocked. I'm talking about the normal people. But then you look at the images and it's like this is
Oh
modeled off of Rome being
no, no!
sacked and
I watched Woo's News, and man, he broke that down. It was just absolutely. It was just as ridiculous as the Trump thing. Like
exactly.
when you watch him, when he breaks it down, and all the photographers all lined up, just like with the Trump thing, like it was all totally like they were kayfabing.
But you would have to have some level of like a high level of education to know the references, and we figure it out as a hive, human intel. There's lots of us looking, but the people writing this stuff are dropping clues that they get, like even like Ashley Babbitt, I think is a reference to Upton Sinclair's The Babbitts. Like there's literary references, there's puns. Like you have the lady Roseanne Boyland on January 6th with the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, and then she gets trampled to death. Just so many inside jokes and world stage names that in 2020 it was very clear. You have what was her name? Sandra Block. The
Oh man,
you're like
you
the
the way
health.
you the
Yeah.
way you the way you sleuth at Infinite, you will know way more than me, man. I don't know how you put all this together and all these clues and all these tie-ins for all these shows and movies. Like it amazes me.
Well, that Maggie Block. So Maggie Block was like the Ministry of Health, and it's like if you had to design like a movie character, um, to be the most unbelievable, like in your face parody of a Minister of Health, you would choose this person. I mean, I'm not fat
Maggie,
shaming,
yeah,
but
Maggie Bl
the name
Blank. I
Block
don't even know who
also.
that is.
She was the one of the during 2020. She was the Belgian Minister of Health. And people were looking at this person saying, is this a joke? And you had other ministers of health. Some of them looked like, one of them looked like the Grim Reaper in a wig. Like these people
Oh, is
don't
that the
even look
one that was incredibly Is that the one that was incredibly large?
as big as a block. Yeah. Like these
The
names.
one with the huge fat face.
Yeah. And I'm saying that these are typical of the types of jokes that we see. In fact, right now in the news, there's a boxer, Emain Khalif, that is part of this controversy, and some are saying, well, it's I man. And I'm like, okay, probably a psyop. If the name in any way ties into their function, which is a common thing. In fact, there's a term for
Wait,
that.
was that the boxer that just performed at the Olympics? The dude that they put against the girl?
Well, that's the initial framing of it, but now they're saying it wasn't that, and it's just gaslighting as usual. But the name I man, someone pointed out, and they said, watch, this is some kind of a psyop, and it has created the responses I think that they wanted.
Yeah, some of the names, like Fakeall just pointed out, like with the Bernie Madoff thing. Bernie Madoff, get it, Madoff.
Goldman Sachs, Sam
Yeah,
Bankman.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, some of the. Oh, I wanted to tell you this real quick. I don't know if this has any relevance or not, but I know you've been talking about pink, like the color pink.
Yes.
Well, I seen it because I know sports is
probably rigged, but I watch baseball with my mom. And Pink, Pink, the artist, she's playing at Petco Park on September 11th.
Oh,
I don't know if that means anything.
it
But
probably,
when I heard that, it made me think of what you were talking about.
yeah, it probably does. And September 11th. Okay, 9/11 pink. I'll take a look at that because the color pink has been positively correlated with the nuke scenario for a few reasons. And whenever we see these headlines or musicians, they're just propaganda platforms. That
Oh, guaranteed. Like, it's just amazing how many of them are in on it. Like, in my opinion, like, I fully agree with you that there's a monolithic con game going on. Everything from September 11 to the fake, in my opinion, the fake nukes, the school shootings, like this recent stabbing in Southport, all of it, like the OJ trial,
yes.
like even probably the Rittenhouse shooting.
Oh yeah, that one was hard. That one was hard to discern at first. I wanted to believe it because it's such a good story, but when you get into the nuance, you can see how this was a closed set and it was a psyop from the very beginning.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know if you saw the footage of when Gage Groshkoit, the guy that's at the trial, like it looked like personal footage, and it showed his arm like shot, and it looked pretty realistic. I don't know if you ever seen that footage.
I did. I watched it in frame by frame. I was trying to figure out, is this a squib? Is it CGI? I was trying to figure
Yeah,
this
'cause
out.
it looked all mangled, like his bicep was blown, like shredded. So I initially thought that was real. I watched the whole trial, and so like
I thought it was real too. There's a few things. Okay, like he shoots the guy with the skateboard in the chest, punctures a lung. That was the
yeah,
strangler. He shoots the pedo in the pelvis. So it's poetic justice. He shoots the burglar in the arm. So like maybe there's some. It's just too perfect to be real. But as far as fakeability, a lot of this could have been accomplished in a closed set where they may have even filmed certain parts in advance and then superimposed it. Because when you look at the live streamers, you're supposed to believe, hey, this is not mainstream media. These are live streamers. No, these live streamers were all working for Tucker Carlson, Daily Caller. And
yeah, but it was just like the supposed photographers and the people that recorded the video on September 11th. They were all affiliated with the media.
yeah, people think these are legitimate witnesses, but no, they're absolutely not. And then you find out that the FBI had drones over Kenosha the entire time.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
That didn't come out until the trial was almost over. So we're like, wait a minute here. The entire time they had drone footage that wasn't released. Well, why would they have it? Because they're monitoring the psyop to make sure there's no witnesses to the fakery.
Yeah, it's definitely like I don't know about the relevance of the Manchester arena bombing. Supposedly, a lot of the paramedics, the emergency service rescue workers, were like put on standby. Those were probably the real ones that couldn't get in. I don't know if it's true or not.
I remember
But
that.
that
I
was,
recall. I remember some real ones
yeah,
were like mad that they couldn't take part. Well, you weren't in on the
yeah.
drill. You weren't tapped.
Same thing they did. They did the same thing with the Boston bombing. Like certain people were like not allowed like on the set.
Yeah.
Similar circumstance.
If you ever go back and watch Kenosha, there's this scene where Kyle is just sitting there goofing off with his friends, and then a police officer walks up to him. So the police officer walks up to this kid with an AR-15, and he's like, have some water bottles, we'll send them your way. And he gives them water.
I know.
And what does that mean?
If I walked down the street with an AR-15, I'd be arrested in 2 seconds.
Well, I thought it was code, because he gave him water. I think the code was this. When you get the water bottle, it means the coast is clear, we're going to run the drill. Because if you can't say that, because you'd give it away. So I think they had a pre-arranged communication, a way of establishing that it's ready to go. So the main actor, the star, the child actor, Kyle Rittenhouse, was told, okay, we're going to move forward with this. The drill's going to be performed. Like, I kind of think that the cops, well, I mean, it's obvious that if it wasn't real, the police are involved. People have to remember that these aren't...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
they're involved in these fakes like Uvalde. The guy's all walking over and hand sanitizer, like it's just all casual. It's like, give me a break.
Yeah, that was all
That's what I mean.
meant to happen. That
These
was
ridiculous, like, there's no way that a real life scenario would play out like that. No way.
And if you remember, right after
mean,
Uvalde, you had Netflix put a warning label on Stranger Things because season 4 begins with a bunch of kids being killed. And this is when I first noticed. I was like, there's no way that what's happening in the entertainment world is disconnected from the news. They have synchronized it, and they plan their release dates accordingly.
Oh, yeah. Like I never seen, like, until I started listening to you, because I first heard about you through Fakeologist. And I never heard anybody put together, like, I've seen, like, oh, The Simpsons predict this and that, but not the way, like, you go into all these TV shows and, like, finding that one show with the drop of blood on the foosball character. That's pretty sleuthy.
Yeah, well, now that we know what we're watching, I've been saying it's propaganda, the entertainment is a side effect. So I watched this stuff knowing it contains messaging, and I sat down to watch Fallout, and that drop of blood is on one frame, and I had to pause, go back, and I was like, that looks just like Trump. So I look at the context, and I'm like, okay, Betty Pearson is Kamala Harris. There's a coup in the Democrat Party, just like in Fallout there was a coup, and she comes next. That was clearly intimated by this. And there are other clues in Fallout as well, but that's just one example. And you can pretty much dependably predict which movies will have programming based on the directors at this point.
Hey, Infinite, I'm gonna call back another time, but I'm at work. I'm actually driving my tow truck right now. I gotta
Cool.
pick this guy up.
Sounds
from
great.
Walmart.
Hey, thank you
But
for calling.
I'll hit you back. Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Likewise, call back anytime. Have a great one.
All right, you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks. All right, excellent caller. He's at work right now, taking a break. Yes, concurrent programming, predictive programming, reinforcement programming, the synchronization between entertainment and news. That's been our major breakthrough since this thing started. And Uvalde really helped us reach this realization. And how many people are in on it? Well, I look at it as there's 3 groups of people in the world. One group is new. You have the programmed, which is the majority. You have the programmers. The new group are the deprogrammed. And that would be us. And there's a lot of people who are very close to being fully deprogrammed, but they're still in the box. People like Jim Fetzer. Like, he can see through the fake news, but he can't look at the big picture enough to understand how Trump's in on it. And you have to let go of your emotional attachment to your idols, sadly, for some people. You have to let it all. You have to drop. It's a religion. It's like an apostasy. You have to lose faith in it. You have to abandon all of it. But what we have determined, having observed this very closely, is that there is a process of entraining minds to the future agendas, which they play out on the news, which may as well be looked at as a reality TV show. And yeah, they do script the news in advance. There's no debating that. Every PSYOP is a scripted news event. And people say, well, other people recorded videos from 9/11, they weren't mainstream. Yeah, they're plants, false witnesses, liars. And there are tons of them. It's the lie world order. But you have the deprogrammed, the programmers, and the programmed. And now the programmers aren't all in the know. It's like a pyramid. There's only a few people at the very top who have a big picture, like astronauts. You know, the president, in fact, in Fly Me to the Moon, President Nixon wasn't even aware that they were faking the moon landing, which makes perfect sense. That's why I use the word insulated. They could be insulated. They don't have to know the big picture. It would actually hurt them. It might even cause the system to break. So they have a compartmentalized system where it's pyramidal on a need-to-know basis, security clearances. And we often refer to secret societies just because of their structures, more or less. You know, the blood oaths, the degrees, the ultimate secrets at the top, the ones at the bottom are misled. Well, that's no different than security clearances. And what we're talking about here is a class of people involved in this area where, in fact, mass entertainment and news and the political psy-opera all merged together. It's the theater of psy-war. It's monolithic, and it's not even accurate to say that there's multiple governments competing in any meaningful way. There's one government. Governments are a subset of its mind control. And who is the boss of it, or what? Well, whoever runs it now didn't build it, but I'm more interested in understanding its structure. And it's built on lies and misdirection. And one of the things they do is they account for those who will see through, and they supply them with ready-made wrong answers. So a lot of people are like, oh, this is all fake. Where's the truth? And they go find it, and it's handed to them, and it's wrong. Or it contains some red herring, overly simplistic scapegoat story that entertains people for their entire lives but never leads to anything. Nor does it disabuse them of the big lies. So they're still scared of nukes, which means they're under control. If you're still ducking and covering, genuflecting and bowing before any of their God constructs, they control you. So if you think you know who controls the world, but you also believe in nukes, you are still being misled. Okay, let's move on. 33 years later, Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall returned to Zamunda. Oh yeah, he had mentioned that movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, and it reminded me of this Coming to America. And I was talking about symbolism of and the context. So here's another example of context where why Coming to America took 33 years to happen. Well, the number 33 here associated with the crown, and we were talking about how you'll find bodies of symbols consistently employed. So Coming Part 2, returning, resurrection, crown, 33, just symbol clusters. And when you get into this, you'll see how we were able to derive meanings from these things. We've been talking about this Marilyn Manson single, As Sick as the Secrets Within. Looks like Vegas, Antichrist face, one eye accentuated. His previous video, he was the President JFK being assassinated. And his new record label, the one that just picked him up, is Nuclear Blast. So there's that. And of course the timing of it. Here we are, 48 hours away from the predicted Trump head wound. Shout out to Jurassic Liars. Oh, let me bring this up. There are a lot of people who are talking about some supposed prophet who predicted that Trump would be shot in the ear. Well, I have some information about this alleged prophet. I point out how many of the people who do the prophecies with gematria calculators use what is called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. And the way this works is you make a lot of guesses, more or less, and then you have so many guesses that when something happens, you're able to point to where you were accurate in part or in full, and then you ignore where you were wrong. It's based on this kind of a little story about a man who claims to be a sharpshooter, and he fires all his rounds into the side of a barn, and then he goes up to the barn and he finds the cluster that would make him look the best, and he draws the target after the fact. So drawing the target after the fact, ignoring your misses, is an effective way to pull off the illusion that you're actually exceedingly accurate. And there is this prophet who, like 3 months before the Trump shooting, said that he saw Trump with an ear wound and blood on his head, and he fell to the ground, and he said that Jesus told him this. And I looked into him, and someone had dropped a documentary about this prophet, and it turns out he's using what we would call the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. And the article here, the documentary, is called The New and Dangerous False Prophet. Here it is. And this is by Mike Winger. He just put this out, and the individual's name we're talking about, Brandon Biggs. So if you heard about Brandon Biggs, and this is 2.5 hours, I listened to like at least half of it, and yeah, I definitely got the impression that this guy has made a ton of prophecies, and then he just conveniently deletes all his wrong answers. And then you go back, and this guy does, Mike Winger goes back, and he finds that He alters everything after the case, after the event. He cherry picks his own evidence. It's a total scam, in other words.
There is a new false prophet in town. He's absolutely blowing up on YouTube, and I believe he's actually very dangerous. I have a lot of evidence to share with you. It's going to be a long video. Buckle up. I'll try to put some timestamps using our little thing here if I can remember when to click the button.
Okay, again, the prophet's name is Brandon Biggs. So we have the Trump prophecy, the many, many prophecies of Brandon Biggs, examples of Brandon's past prophecies that he claims have been fulfilled. Then you have another half hour of Brandon's failed prophecies, false prophecies. In fact, in his vision of Trump, he said that there were these huge mountains behind him. Well, in Butler, Pennsylvania, the tallest mountain is like a hill. Like there are no majestic peaks in the background. When Brandon is wrong, he's still right. More prophecies for the future. He claims that Jesus has spoken to him 8 times. And that Jesus said that when the aliens arrive, don't believe these are all aliens because they're demons, and the demons are going to kidnap all the Christians. So it's not just that he was right and you can trust him and now he's got credibility. No, this guy's always been batty. This guy's bat guano insane. And yet, cherry picking 1 or 2 statements out of one of his prophecies allowed him to pull in a massive following. And apparently he's a big time crypto grifter as well. And these things overlap.
And he was reinterpreting the phrase eardrum to mean earlobe. That's what he was doing. Now he just admits he got it wrong. And he says why he got it wrong. Well, then why did he lie before and say that he got it exactly right? What is going on? I'll tell you why. The mind of Brandon Biggs, you'll see over time here, is...
Now, I'm not going to play this whole video, but it's a great listen if you're interested in cult leaders and prophets. But the mechanism by which these individuals work is the Texas sharpshooter fallacy. I mean, you could do it yourself. Memorize Revelations. Memorize the book of Revelation. And then watch the news and make predictions based on Revelation. It's easy. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, dude, this is Jurassic. What's going on?
Hey, I watched this 2-hour documentary about that false prophet guy you were talking about, and it turns out this guy is a huge scammer, and he cherry picks his own prophecies, and he's very shady about how he presents his so-called prophecies. So again, Brandon Biggs, shill exposed.
Oh, yeah, the guy, he actually, a while back, years ago, supposedly, he was telling everyone the world's coming to an end, and people at his church, and people were selling their houses and everything, and he got kicked out of the church, because everyone lost lost so much money because of him, because they thought he actually was a prophet, the idiot.
Fascinating. There's no way that someone this successful at this is unknowingly using these logical fallacies. This is a con game, and he knows he's playing on people who don't understand these things, just like the mainstream media does with their global warming. I mean, this is a scam and a grifter, and I don't think he acts alone. But anyway.
No, what he does is, listen, just let me tell you the trick. It's just like all the sidekicks. They give you generic predictions. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, if somebody was going to get an attempted assassination on them, okay, first of all, he would have got this revelation years ago, but he got it after the MSM has been talking about it now for the last, year and a half. But he says, first of all, where would somebody, if there was an attempted assassination, where would they usually shoot for? Either the body or the head, right? So for you to say there's going to be an attempted assassination, it's going to not hit him, but it's going to go by his, head or his ear, that's not a prediction, okay? A prediction would be to tell people, you know what? He's going to be getting his head wound on this date at this place, or you know what I mean? That's just a generic thing, saying someone's going to get a head wound, especially when everyone's already been talking about it. But anyway, that's not why I called in.
That's a great point. Let me just add on that, because that's a great point. This person who made this video brings it up at the very beginning. he says that if you really analyze his statements, they're generic. Like Trump will be at a big event and people will be wearing MAGA hats. And so what they do is they layer on a lot of things that are not predictions, but are regular things, like the sky is blue. And then they throw in their little piece, which they can kind of like move around a little bit. So yeah, you're right. It's a total scam. But yeah,
that's
but
what he does. He says there's going to be a volcano that goes off. There's going to be an earthquake. I mean, who doesn't know that? You know what I mean? It's just garbage. But anyway, what else you want to talk about?
Well, we are 48 hours away from 8/4, and I was looking at this Marilyn Manson album that just dropped. He put an album, and so he's Antichrist superstar, and he puts out this single, and it looks like Nevada with his face on it, and he has the one eye thing. And in one of his music videos from a few years ago, he played JFK being assassinated. So there's a backstory to Marilyn Manson even being featured in this, and I thought, well, this is odd that 3 days before 8/4 this album drops.
Well, that's a great catch. I didn't know that. But here's something connecting Maryland. I'll tell you that. First of all, JFK's backwards birth date is August 4th, right? 5/29, JFK, the guy who got the head wound, his backwards birthday is August 4th because 5/29 is the 149th day of the year, which leaves 216 days in the year. The 216th day of the year is August 4th. So 5/29, JFK's birthday is the backwards date of August 4th, the day Trump's going to get his head wound, right? You got that, right?
Yeah, 140. So yeah,
Okay.
for people who don't get it, 5/29 is the 149th day of the year, and when there's one, so that means that when there's 149 left, it's 8/4.
There's 216 days
Oh,
left in the year.
216, right? Okay.
Yeah. And listen, it doesn't matter. The point was it's connected to August 4th, JFK. That's the whole point. And JFK is the one who got the head wound, and Trump's going to get the head wound on August 4th, right? Which is Obama's birthday. That's why Obama was the president before Trump. But anyway, you listen to this. You're speaking of Maryland. Maryland was connected to JFK, right?
Oh, Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, Marilyn Monroe died on August 4th.
No way. Oh, wait, you're
Yeah.
right. Let me bring this up. Because I remember that there's that song "Who Killed Marilyn" by the Misfits, and it starts off with August 5th, her body being discovered. So I think I kind of missed that. She died on August 4th.
Yeah, they found it on August 5th, but I've already done so many videos years ago on that creature.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson is an amalgamation of Charles Manson and Marilyn Monroe.
Right, and Marilyn, of course, was connected to the Camelot. You have Kamala, and also because that was JFK's thing, Camelot they were calling it, and when Elvis went to film the movie, it happened at the World's Fair where he was in the Space Needle. He stopped. The very place he stopped was first of all, it was on my birthday. When he was on his way there, he stopped in Kalama, Washington. It's the same as Kamala, the same letters. Kamala. He stopped in Kalama, Washington. So everything's connected to this,
It
camel
is.
that shoots through the eye of the needle. The camel that shoots through the eye of the needle. It's all connected,
Do you
to
know
this stupid Trump.
Kamala Harris's dad's name?
Donald. Yeah, I
Donald
said
J.
that, yeah.
Donald Jasper. Donald J.
Yep, crazy. Yeah. I've done all that. I was telling everyone that her name meant lotus like 5 years ago.
You have been on top of this.
Lotus.
You've been entirely on
Yeah.
top of all this. And one more thing to add, May 29th is the 149th day, and you pointed this out. That's the 35th prime, and JFK 35th president.
Right, and I mentioned that because Elvis was born in the 35th year, and the 35th prime is 149. Exactly.
Yeah, this is so well integrated. But yeah, the Marilyn Manson, Marilyn Monroe, August 4th connection, great catch, and it definitely adds on to this album cover I've been analyzing.
If you have something else to say, I got something to tell you.
No, please add on to this.
You can't wait till you see. Talking about album covers, you've got to see this if you haven't seen my video yet. Somebody brought this to my attention. It just so happened it came in his feed somewhere. I have no idea how he found it, but it's some band. Look up this band. It's called, the album covers, the album is called Deep in the Trouble by Goodbye June. Look at the album cover, will you?
Okay, we're looking at Goodbye June, Deep in the Trouble. Let me bring this up. I found it. Okay, what are we looking at here?
Look at that album cover. What is the chance that they would do something like that? You know.
I want to make sure I'm looking at the right album cover really quick here. 'Cause
That's it.
That is it?
I see it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Good. I see the American flag. Are these like, okay, what do you see in this?
Oh, no, you're missing it. You had it. Yeah, that Goodbye June. It says Goodbye June, right?
Oh, June 11th. I see. That's a smiley face.
Yeah.
It's an 11. Okay,
Yeah.
now I see it.
Yeah. It's telling you Goodbye June 11th, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Deep
I mean,
in the
you think that's a coincidence that they put the 11 right under the June? And
No.
the reason they said that they named their band Goodbye June is because one of the guitarists, or a brother of the guitarist died on June 25th or something. But look at who is their record label. Put Goodbye June record label. I have to give it to you. It says, because I don't think you're going to get it if you see. Do they show you their record label?
Yeah, I'm looking here. It says, Deep in the Trouble, Goodbye June. I'm trying to find the record label.
No, just type in Earache Records.
Earache, yeah, I see it now. Earache Records. Okay, record labels. And that Marilyn Manson, he is now on Nuclear Blast. He got dropped by the other label because of his sordid past. But Nuclear Blast, Vegas, Antichrist Eye on an album cover that looks like Vegas.
Wow, that's crazy. That's unreal. Yeah.
And again, yeah, he calls himself Antichrist, and he's always emphasized the right eye.
Yeah, you know what? I never really looked. I mean, I looked into him years ago, but I don't know. I have to go into that more to see if there's any other connections to Elvis with Marilyn Manson. I haven't really looked.
Well, he
lately.
has specifically modeled a lot of his career off of David Bowie, so there has to be. There's a lot of Kubrick, a lot of Bowie in his work, so I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever.
Does it say when he's born?
January
Marilyn
5th. January 5th.
Oh, wow. He's born on 1/5, 3 days before Elvis. Okay. Let me ask you something. You know that Bill Clinton, the reason I'm bringing him up, because, you guys are always talking about the 42, and, of course, we know that Elvis died at 42, and Washington's the 42nd state, right?
Right.
But you know that Bill Clinton, the 42nd president, listen, I'm just asking, what is the chance that from Elvis's birthday to the day Bill Clinton was born, exact amount of days in between Elvis's birth and Bill Clinton's birth is 4,242 days. 4242. You know what I mean?
Long-term engineering, there is no coincidences on the world stage as far as I'm concerned. And these birthday connections you have made have been, I think, one of the reasons that we've been consistent in predicting things and noticing things is that you have to pay attention to anniversary dates, birth dates, and death dates. Like, this is a huge clue.
Yeah, and let me just tell you more about why that's so important, the 4242. Obviously, 42 plus 42 equals 84, right? You have that connection. And because that's how many days it was, 4,242 days in between Elvis's birthday and the 42nd president, right? And then Elvis dies at age 42. Washington's the 42nd state, right? Now, what is the 42nd prime number? 181. So if you were to minus 181 from 1,000, you get 819. 819 is Bill Clinton's birthday. You see how it all matches together with the 42, because I just told you 42nd prime is 181 minus 181 from 1,000. You get 819. 819 is his birthday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we had mentioned this 42 miles in American politics, connecting Palestine, where you had the mushroom cloud, to the headshot. And so this 42 number has been popping up a lot, and California was on fire because a 42-year-old set his car on fire and drove it into the woods. So 42 is one of these key numbers. And then I think there was one more thing with Marilyn Manson that I wanted to bring up here. It was, let's see if I can find it. What you brought up was great, Marilyn Monroe. That's a huge clue here. And then the whole man-son thing, the man-son code that you're always talking about.
Right.
He has the sigil or symbol of Lucifer tattooed on his hand, which, just sounds like typical for a rock star of that genre, but it does fit into this bigger body of programming. I'll see what else I can find on him, and I'll run it by you.
Yeah.
But that Marilyn Monroe dying on August 4th, mind blowing. You brought up,
and
yeah.
Yeah, just one last thing about the Bill Clinton. See, I know you're thinking I'm just bringing it up for no reason, but the 42 is the whole big connection here. And the fact that he was the 42nd president, and the first time we saw that clown on TV, trying to be cool, Bill Clinton, he went on the Arsenio Hall show, okay? And Arsenio Hall, how did he bring Bill Clinton out? He brought him out playing a saxophone, okay? And what was he playing? Heartbreak Hotel on the saxophone, which is Elvis' song,
wow.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And when is Saxophone Day? Look it up.
Okay, Saxophone Day, November 116.
Yeah, that's the 6-11 backwards type of thing. 11-6, it's 6-11. Because I'm talking about June 11th is when Washington gets struck. But you see what I mean? It's like so perfectly, connected, all this, the synchronicities or whatever.
Yeah, hey, 1 second here. Hey, hey, caller, will you hold on for just a moment? I'm going to switch back. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, sorry about that. I had to pick up this other call. So you brought up the Saxophone Day, 116.
Yeah, no, I was just showing you all the thing, all how everything connects to each other. That's all. And he's born on 8/19, Bill Clinton, right? And if you add up all the numbers between 8 through 19, you get 162, and June 11th is the 162nd day of the year.
Another solid hit there. This November 6th thing has been on our sites for some time, since the Batman movie had Gotham going underwater on 11/6. And then this is the 116th year of the FBI. They just had their birthday. So this should be, that should be significant in and of itself. And of course, anything else regarding 8/4? You're going to be live that day so people can tune in?
Oh yeah, I do 2 lives a day, so definitely I'll be going live again tonight. And yeah, I know there was something else I was going to mention, but yeah, forget it. I'll call back if I have to.
Yeah, if you recall anything else, definitely call back. But you've actually added a lot here to the conversation already, and I'm going to have to do some mind mapping on this November 6th day. Anyway, thanks for the call and the insights as always. Have a great day.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey, what's up, caller? Hey, thank you for holding.
Hey, Tim. That picture you held up with Marilyn Manson with that piece of glass that looked like Nevada?
Yeah, just came out this morning or yesterday.
Yep. I just saw it now for the first time, and his baby finger is pointing to the Cal Neva Resort. Have you ever heard of that resort?
No, where is it?
It was depicted in that film, Bad Times at El Royale, with Hemsworth there. Did you ever catch that flick?
No.
Jeff Bridges was in it.
No, but how do I spell the name?
Man.
How do I spell the name of the place so I can bring it up?
Cal as in California, Cal-Neva as in Nevada, because this resort was right on the border apparently, as part in this film, right on the border between California and Nevada. But in this film, there is a scene where there were two-way mirrors in these rooms, and the allegation in this film script is that there was film that featured JFK. They allude to it with innuendo that they had captured JFK in a compromising film shot through one of these two-way mirrors in the hotel. Bill Pullman's son was in this film as well. You know Bill Pullman, right? The actor?
Right.
So you never saw or heard of Bad Times at the El Royale?
No, I have not, but I'm looking at it now. And it reminds me of Biff Tannen's Pleasure Palace.
I'm telling you, but Manson's baby finger is pointing to where Cal Neva is, and his ring finger is pointing to where Vegas is.
Okay, those are good observations, because none of this is accidental. The fact that this thing looks like Vegas and that he's on Nuclear Blast stands out. And then, of course, he played JFK in Coma White, where he...
No coincidence. Right. There's this guy named Jason Brashears from RKX.com, and he deserves a good shout out too, because his expression, and you're going to like this one, I think it's fabulous. He says, too many coincidence means no coincidence at all, but a construct.
Yeah, Ian Fleming, 007's author, said once is a happenstance, twice coincidence, three times enemy action. There's a point where you have to assume intentionality here, agency.
That's it, man. See, I didn't want to say much more, but that's I saw that for the first time. And as soon as I saw it, I just leapt to the phone, because I remember that film. It stuck out in my mind so vividly, and the moment I saw that, I just had to call.
Thank you.
It was great talking to you again.
Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate it. All right. Okay. Thank you. And what he's pointing out here is that on this Nevada-looking shard of mirror, where Manson's face has his one eye emphasized, his pinky finger is touching the location of this movie that involved, allegedly, JFK. And then the other part looks like, we'll have to look at this closely. But I hadn't thought about Marilyn Manson's Monroe connection. I was mostly interested in his connection to Ye, the Donde 2 event, and then his connection to Westworld as a real-world corresponding character to the Man in Black, to Hades. And these connections are all deepened by this album cover here that just dropped. The Nevada connection may even be more significant. I think we'll see. But I was looking at this tweet from Plug Edition, who said, for some years, I've been thinking Call of Duty Black Ops Nuketown was predictive programming, and it wouldn't shock me if we see something like this. And here's a couple of images from Nuketown, which looks Vegas-y as heck. And I believe we have, there's quite a lot here, but again, nothing new here. I wanted to point out that Westworld 4 ends with an EMP blast, and it begins at the Hoover Dam. And it has what appears to be a Space Needle throughout it. There's a Space Needle-esque tower all throughout it. And here's an image of it. It's kind of like a crooked Space Needle, but this is like a reoccurring symbol throughout. In fact, on the cover of Westworld 4, you actually see the Space Needle inside the eye of the skull. And I believe it zooms in if you look at the, there we go. You can zoom in, you can see the Space Needle in the eye of the skull. Now the significance here ties into, Westeros burning, Westworld burning. It's about the West. Seattle is intimated here, but it could be Vegas. Fallout, which we were talking about a little while ago, the series Fallout ends with a scene that looks like Vegas having been nuked, but there's a Space Needle. So there's that. And when you look at the Westworld covers in general, they all contain significant predictive programming. None of this stuff is accidental, as I was just saying with that caller. And I can point to numerous aspects of their advertisements, their art, that point to what was about to transpire. The Season 3 coincided with the pandemic lockdowns, and it was just loaded with 311s. In fact, even if you look at the logo for Westworld, it looks like the number 3 and the number 11 if you turn it on its side, overlapping. Then you have this Freedom Isn't Free, where there's this android, it looks like he's impaled on a syringe. But no, that's the One World Trade Tower, in my opinion. It's just a building, but it represents the One World Trade Tower, which looks like a big syringe. And he's in front of it, and that's in the background. But, of course, it looks like somebody impaled. Very significant. Westworld was actually chock full of 311 references. And when you look at the movie posters, there are more clues. So even without watching these things, unbelievable. We could do a whole 3 hours on just album covers, movie covers, and how they always correlate 9/11 and 3/11. For example, and I'm not going to go into this very much longer, but there's a movie series on Netflix called 3%, and their logo for 3% is quite clearly the Twin Towers and 311. So it's a 9/11, 3/11 connection, but you have to look closely. So you see the number 3 and the percentage sign. Well, if you rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise, you see the Twin Towers. So the 3 has an 11 in it, but it's also the Twin Towers. Then you look at the percent symbol. That is a bird's eye view of the Twin Towers. So you have 2 different views of the Twin Towers, but this is, of course, a movie about a 2-tiered society where those who accept the syringe get to live in a more advanced society, but they're sterile, and they are the 3%. Interesting subtext, good movie series, loaded with programming. All right, moving on. We barely scratched the surface on the notes. Who's the better crisis actor? Just kind of informally here. Who's the better crisis actor? Jussie Smollett or President Donald Trump? Anybody can answer? And then I'll check the polls. Alright, I'm scrolling through your comments, make sure I haven't missed anything. I think I saw a couple things. Oh yeah, Conscious Daughter had mentioned that Snoop Dogg was wearing a goat around his neck, like a Baphomet goat, at the Olympics. Now, I hadn't thought about it. I thought, okay, that's just got to be the greatest of all time. Snoop Dogg debunks claims over necklace. Well, there's always 2 meanings to things. There's the exoteric and the esoteric. It's in all the movies. Everything has a deeper subtext. So it may mean one thing, but it also means another, depending on whether you have the initiate's interpretation. So here's Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg or Snoop Demon? Some people think they noticed the rapper sporting a devilish accessory at the Paris Olympics.
Snoop Dogg or Snoop Demon? Some people think they noticed the rapper sporting a rather devilish accessory at the Paris Olympics. But if you ask him, that's not quite the case. Satanic imagery, as well as the uproar over that same imagery, appears to be making a comeback.
Satanic panic. And the reason for the satanic panic is that they need to alarm the right wing, or traditional values need to be challenged in the same way that the left is challenged by the right wing and their views, which they see as archaic. So it's like religion versus science, traditionalism versus progressivism, nostalgia for an idealized past versus this utopian future. So the satanic panic is always initiated by the left. They put their idols up on the stage like Sam Smith, and the right wing goes crazy. It's like, oh no, this guy's wearing Party City devil horns. Clutch your pearls. But the whole point here is that you have the old concept of sin juxtaposed against the new concept of sin. The new concept of sin being the virus, for one, with the salvation, the injectable Eucharist, but also hate speech, systemic racism. These are like secular counterparts to more traditional ideas of evil. And this is a dialectic they play upon, so they always do these things to outrage. And this whole Olympics has been nothing but outrage from the very beginning. But let me go ahead and find where they're talking about his goat necklace. Again, fans don't buy his debunk. This is from Grunge. So he's tried to play it down.
1300s, Baphomet was associated with the persecution of the Knights Templar, a religious military order that was founded to help Christian pilgrims reach Jerusalem.
Knights Templar, by the way, disbanded 322, 1312. Resurrected 1717 as the Masons. Kind of an old story, but the 322 was in there. And we were talking about the significance of 1312 in 2020 when we noticed BLM was spray painting that everywhere. And to them it means ACAB, all cops are bastards, but I think the subtext is who's controlling the riots? Who controls the dialectics, both sides? And I think it's just another way of them flaunting it. But again, he's playing it down. He's not a Templar.
They were accused of all kinds of...
Or is he? You know, when you think Knights Templar, well, you have the Skull and Bones Society, Knights Templar offshoot. The OTO, Aleister Crowley, all the New Age stuff. That's the Order Templar Orientis. That's definitely a Templar offshoot. So they're not disconnected. You got Jay-Z, Do What Thou Wilt. So again, they can downplay it if they want, but Snoop Dogg's goat necklace has been making the rounds. Snoop Dogg clears the air after satanic goat chain. Snoop Dogg addresses the claim he's rocking a satanic goat. This has really gone viral. Sometimes a goat is just a goat. But having looked at the bigger context here, what does Baphomet really represent? It's not the devil. It's not an actual entity. It's not a persona. It's not a god in the traditional sense. It's more of like a totem, or I've heard it described as a hieroglyph of arcane perfection. It's just an amalgamation of angel, man, beast, male, female, and it's meant to show some kind of equilibrium, but the torch between the horns signifying spirit over matter. It's not the same as the devil. The devil tarot card specifically has the torch inverted, and it represents darkness and flesh, matter over spirit, over light. So in this case, though, there seems to be a diamond between the horns, which would suggest that this is indeed a Baphomet, but he's going to say it's not. Let me go through some comments. Nicotrauma says, Sunday's going to be a big day even if nothing happens. Right. Ryler says the 216th day of the year is 8/3 this year. Is that so? Tomorrow? Well, Trump's going to be in Atlanta tomorrow. And I got this email from him recently, and he said something like, we're about to unleash hell in 24 hours. Busy says, Marilyn Manson is connected to Westworld because he dated and abused Evan Rachel Wood. Yeah, thank you, Busy. I have a few articles on this, because his relationship with Rachel Wood mirrors the Man in Black's relationship with Dorothy, who she plays. And it goes deep, because she's playing, Dolores, not Dorothy. I mixed her up with the Wizard of Oz Dorothy, because these are analogous characters. Dorothy, Wizard of Oz. Dolores, Man in Black. Wizard of Oz is a Hades-like character in the underworld of Oz. Just like the Mad Hatter, who Marilyn Manson often portrays, rules over Wonderland, and Alice represents Persephone in the underworld. It's a reoccurring theme. Persephone gets kidnapped when it becomes fall, so after the autumn equinox, and she's taken to Hades. So this story with Marilyn Manson and Rachel Wood is told in her documentary, which was released when she turned 33, and in it she claims she met Marilyn Manson at a party. She was looking over a balcony, and he said to her, "Don't fall." So she titled the first part of her documentary, "Don't Fall." And I thought, okay, don't fall. That's a Persephone reference. Don't fall into the underworld. So then they start dating, and he immediately invites her to work on a script for a movie that they never released called Alice in Wonderland. So there's another Persephone reference. Moves forward. They have this relationship that's supposedly terrible for her, and that becomes the subject of her documentary. But they establish this dynamic that she was basically under his spell, and then she had to escape. And the second part of it is called The Phoenix, where she escapes him. But I started thinking that this would be an indicator that maybe this is all some kind of drawn out psyop, like the thing with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, for example. Maybe this is meant to convey something else altogether. Well, the more I look into it, the more I find that this is indeed seemingly the story, because of the parallels between her movie character saying, in the movie Westworld, the Man in Black is constantly killing her father or threatening her father, and Evan Rachel Wood claims that Marilyn Manson literally threatened her father. And then the reason for the documentary was something that happened on the music video movie set for Heart-Shaped Glasses. So in Heart-Shaped Glasses, Evan Rachel Wood plays the role of Dolores Hayes. So there's that name again, Dolores. You have Dorothy, Oz, Dolores, Westworld. Now she's playing Dolores Hayes from Lolita, which is directed by, Lolita was a film directed by Kubrick. So Kubrick's Lolita, and this music video is based on that. Now, Heart-Shaped Glasses is a music video in which she claims she was raped on the set by Marilyn Manson, which is a terrible allegation. and that this is the main scene in this thing. But when I heard about this, I remember this song by Manson. I think it's called Overneath the Path of Misery. And in this, there is, and I'll pull out the full lyrics, there's a line in here that he repeats where he says, here it is, the rape of Persephone was choreographed by the wrong Greeks. The rape of Persephone was a marketing scheme. Rape so phony. So Persephone, Persophone. Rape, Persophone. And so what I connected here is this staging of the rape of Persephone as a marketing scheme. And this fits perfectly with Dolores Hayes, Dolores or Evan Woods, the Man in Black, Marilyn Manson. It fits in so succinctly, and it ties in perfectly not only with her documentary, but what might even be a bigger agenda outside of just promoting his own career. And it may be tied to the whole Me Too thing. So it's a very detailed thing, but I think it might be a marketing scheme. All right, let me catch up on comments. We'll revisit all these things at some point here soon. Cubstar says Baphomet is a pursuit of wisdom. I've heard a few things, because Baphomet was once described as being like a head, a talking head, like the skull of John the Baptist. And so baptism of wisdom, I've heard it was Muhammad. I've heard a few things about it. I mean, it's one of these things that has many different definitions. According to the Church of Satan, it was a Templar thing. And so they have a Baphomet pendant, which they say is a Templar sigil. In fact, the Satanists consider themselves Templars. And this is where we get the black and the red and the white. The Templar cross, the red cross on the white shield, has a great deal of significance to a lot of the symbolism that we talk about here on the daily. Lex Van Man says the name Baphomet was an old French corruption of the name Muhammad. See, I've heard that, but when you look at who designed it, Eliphas Levi, I think it suggests Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Tim, it's me again.
Hey, what's up, caller?
I'm going to digress just a bit, but it's a good digression. And it concerns, well, your very namesake, Tim Osmond, of course, the connection with the Wizard of Oz. So if you don't mind, would you indulge me in a quick pop quiz about that film?
The Wizard of Oz, yeah. They don't know who played the green, scary Wizard of Oz face, by the way.
The holographic projection, exactly. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about, so I'm glad you're already on that one. But here's what I have for you. Questions. Here we go. From your memory, what did the wizard end up giving the Scarecrow?
A brain.
Did he give him a brain? Did he give him a brain?
No, he gave him. Didn't he just give him like a diploma, like a high school
diploma? He gave him a diploma of noetology. That's right. He gave him a diploma. Then after getting the diploma, he incorrectly cited the Pythagorean theorem and said it was an isosceles triangle and not a right triangle. Even the Simpsons picked up on that gag when Homer found Henry Kissinger's glasses in the toilet. He put them on and he mimicked the Scarecrow. Okay, question 2. What did the wizard give the Tin Man? Did he give him a heart?
Didn't he give him like a ticking clock?
He gave him a clock in the shape of a heart. That's right. He gave him time. The ticking clock. What did he give the lion? Did he give him courage? No, he gave him a medal. So none of them actually got what they were really looking for, did they? The wizard conned them all.
Total bait and switch. I've heard it was a metaphor that Oz is ounce. So the Wizard of Oz is the Wizard of Ounce, but ounce is a what? Well, follow the yellow brick road.
Gold bricks. Gold brick. Bouillon.
Ounce is a gold. Yeah.
Bouillon. Bouillon. French, isn't it?
Many different
bouillon
meanings, interpretations to it. Do you know Oz, the Wizard of Oz's name? What his full name is? It's Oz Pinhead, which is really strange.
That one I had never heard. Where'd you get that from? Got to hear it.
Well, Oz Pinhead. Now, Pinhead has a lot of significance to another underworld, demiurge, Hades-type character, the character Pinhead from Hellraiser.
That's right, Hellraiser. That's one.
But the name Pinhead is actually his whole name, Oz Pinhead, is Oscar Zoroaster Friedrich Isaac Norman Henkel Emmanuel Ambrose Diggs. Oz is for short.
Okay, and ready? Pinhead is a derogatory term that we use to call someone stupid because it's actually a common way of saying that someone is suffering from microcephaly. A pinheaded person is someone that suffers from microcephaly.
Interesting. Well, the Hellraiser, they call him Pinhead because he has nails in his head, and
Yes.
this is tying into the whole Christ thing, self-mortification, and of course he has this black cube, which is very Saturnian, and one of the main things about him is that when he was a human, before he was turned into this demon thing, he was ripped to pieces, where these chains with hooks come out. So like Osiris, he's ripped to pieces, and then he's reassembled. And oftentimes in the movie posters, you'll see he says things like, I am the way, and he has his arms out. So there's a lot of Christ symbolism and Saturnian stuff embedded into the Pinhead character.
Yeah, because Saturnial is equated with sanguinity, right?
Well, Saturn, the harvest,
Sanguinity.
the end of time and death.
And sanguinity.
I guess bleeding.
Jupiter joviality, right? All the planets have been given their so-called attributes, their temperamental attributes, right? They have been assigned. But back to Oz. You'll stop to consider just for a moment, of all the figures in that film, which were the only ones that could fly?
You're talking about Wizard of Oz?
Yeah, which were the only creatures, which were the only characters that were able to actually fly?
Oh, the monkeys and the witch.
The monkeys and the witch. But the Queen of the North, she floated in on a bubble. And how did the witch communicate her message to Dorothy? Surrender, Dorothy.
Chemtrails.
She wrote it in the sky in the trail from her broom.
Yeah, it was chemtrails.
So whatever we want to call them, what we see, without giving them labels, the point is she wrote her message in the sky. So when messages come from the sky, do we give them more credence than messages that come from the sea or the land? Why do we? Why do we look to space and the stars to find our meaning here on Earth?
I have a theory.
Instinct?
I have a theory.
Go on, let's hear it.
Okay, a couple of things. I've been like, when I look at things, I try to imagine if I'm an alien anthropologist, and I'm just being honest, so I don't have any blinkers on. So I look at, let's say I go to church and I see this old Catholic, and this is not meant to be offensive, but I would think, okay, this is the priesthood subjugating the population with this veiled threat that you disobey us and we will nail you up like this dead guy here. So there's this veiled threat behind having a mutilated human corpse on the wall. And then the people have to look up at the altar, which might recall the experience of being a child looking up to who? Father. The father figure. So it has this adult-child transactional relationship where it's like you're speaking as a child to the adult, and they say, be like children. So I kind of think in some ways the desire to look up is programming, and it's meant to cause us to revert to some, a less, I guess, mature state of mind so that we can be susceptible to the authorities. That's my thinking.
Well, the very fact that the Romans used crucifixion was not just for the horrible punishment to the individual, but as the message to those who are onlooking, to those that follow. It was double.
It's great PR.
That's right. Now all these things that you've been discussing, what they all seem to have in common, regardless of how we label the relationships, is that they all seem to point to pain as a rite of passage. Pain and suffering as a rite of passage. Now, is that a good or evil thing? Well, it all depends, right?
What are you referring to exactly?
Well, whether we call it crucifixion or Pinhead with all the nails in his head, the idea that pain...
Oh, you're talking... Yes. This is not a new concept. You're talking about mortification. And that's why I brought this up, because the idea of mortification is simply, like within the Catholic Church, voluntary actions to put death to the vices, sinful habits, and there are various ways. Self-flagellation. There's a group called the Penitents. I actually had I believe some older relatives who were part of this thing where they would, you walk
the flagellants.
On Easter and the crawling on the knees and stuff. Yeah, pain and asceticism have gone together for a long time.
Yeah, and at the other end of the spectrum is hedonism. At the other end of the spectrum, the other extreme.
Yes.
Hedonism.
Yes. In fact, the Satanic Church believed, in the Satanic Bible, they write that the other path of denying the flesh and asceticism is folly, whereas the true way to understand the world and to transcend is by chasing the ways of the flesh and putting that over any sort of spiritual doctrines. It's an inversion of it. But yes, this pleasure plane dialectic is something that you see played upon by these religions, of course.
Yeah, I'll leave you with one last one from Marcus Aurelius. He said, in a nutshell, he said, do not chase after pleasure and do not seek to flee pain. So he didn't say embrace pain, look for pain. Neither did he say go seek pleasure. But he said, don't go pleasure seeking. At the same time, don't try to avoid pain. And that seems to be a very interesting dynamic there, because he's not saying that you should not enjoy yourself, but at the same time, he's not saying that we should punish ourselves either. Now, the thing with Jesus Christ, we got to remember, he wasn't a flagellant, and he did not heap his pains upon himself. He took them upon himself, albeit others inflicted upon him, both verbally and then physically. They bore false witness against him, and then they blackmailed the Roman procurator, Pilate, to have him condemned instead of Barabbas. That's what happened to him. So there's a big difference there. He wasn't a glutton for punishment, but to do what he had to do for the sake of righteousness, he knew he was going to incur punishment at the hands of the hypocrites.
Yeah, well, interesting story. And of course, what's your take on the Olympic opening ceremony? Where
oh man, okay, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim. And listen, I'm going to tell you something. You know what that really is ultimately? It is really pornographic distraction. Like, they're making it so obvious. They're making the mockery so obvious that it's actually kind of lost its effect. Like, people roll their eyes at this kind of thing now. And all the Christians that are up in arms being offended say, why should anyone be offended by someone else's folly?
Right. Okay.
That's the fault I have with people that profess to be Christians. So, okay, we see these things happening. I didn't watch live. I knew I was going to hear all kinds of reports after. Anyway, just like the 2012 Olympics with the beds, the nurses in the beds and the needles and all that stuff. Right? It was all scripted, predictive programming. So I wasn't surprised at all that there were these displays for the opening ceremonies. We expected them. But then when Christians turn around and say, do you see? I'll say, well, what's not to see? What did you expect, something different? And why would it be an offense to Christ or Christians? It's the fools that offend themselves with these displays. Why should we be offended?
And one more point on this is that the people who are offended are not only claiming to be offended because they're Christians, but it's conservatives. And conservatives are supposedly the ones who want to conserve free speech absolutism, but now they want to introduce blasphemy laws. I guess it's like, well, it's
the hallmark of hypocrisy. Yeah, that's the hallmark of hypocrisy. Right?
Whatever happened to? I may not agree with what you have to say, but I'll defend your right to say it. To now, it's
that was Voltaire.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, so that's the thing. And the other thing about arguing with fools, see, if anyone argues with a fool, they will appear to others as being on par with the fool.
Sure.
There's no point of people entertaining foolish notions or vain speculation. Well, speculation is speculation, but manifestation is manifestation. If someone claims to have knowledge, they have to be able to demonstrate the knowledge. And it can't be based on hearsay. I have a friend that told me this. I have a friend that read this book. Or people that say they've read a book when really they've heard nothing but redactions.
What about CSAY? Like, I was looking at this debate on Twitter between fakeologists and some guy who was warning about guided missiles. And the argument was, do you know these exist? What's your evidence? And if your evidence is, I saw it on TV, that doesn't qualify as evidence.
It doesn't, especially now, especially in this day and age with AI-generated video. People can falsify anything, including SpaceX rockets landing back on a blast pad, firing. That defies all laws of aerodynamics and physics, man. There is no way a rocket is going to come back down and land itself right side up like that. Not just no.
Didn't Voltaire also say those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities? But
that's right.
Hey, well, thank you for the call very much.
Excellent, Tim. Talk to you again. Sorry to disrupt you twice, but
no.
I had to get that in there.
Valid info. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. And let us continue. Zetetic Mindset has joined us. Glad to see you going strong, IPS. Yeah, let's take a quick look at our numbers. So we have a good 50 people or so over there at TuneIn, Radio King, and Paranormal Radio. Last year, Infinite Plane Radio was 8 in the top 13 of streaming radio in paranormal, even though we're not technically paranormal. We got 50 in the IPS Think Tank on Twitter, 90 on the YouTube, and then the rest of us are scattered throughout, but not bad numbers. A lot of comments. Appreciate everybody's comment. Conscious Daughter says there's a character in the new Beetlejuice whose name is Dolores. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence. Because Beetlejuice 2. Beetlejuice, Mad Hatter, Hades, Pinhead, the Man in Black, and their underworlds. Wizard of Oz's underworld Oz, Wonderland, Westworld being the place of the synth, and then of course Hades. It's the same dynamic. Alice in Wonderland is again one of Marilyn Manson's kind of motifs, and then so he's doing just to get back to that really quick, he was working on some project with Evan Rachel Wood called Alice in Wonderland, and then does this scene in a Kubrick video, a Kubrick inspired character named Dolores Hayes. I mean, it gets pretty clear to me that Marilyn Manson is a meta-scripter on some level. Otherwise, how can you explain Coma White? I mean, this is a big tell, Coma White. So just to go back to this before we go any further, because what I started off today was talking about this album drop by Marilyn Manson where he puts his face on a piece of glass shaped like Nevada. And the message to me seems to be something about the Antichrist, the single eye. But when we look at his past, he did this song directed by Samuel Bayer. The video recreates the assassination of JFK with Manson as President Kennedy. Now it said here, Manson explained it was intended, now this is again because it was in the vicinity, timing-wise, of JFK Jr.'s death. He was asked about this, and I guess it had to do with the second Jesus. And let me pull this up, because this is bizarre. The music video was for a script called Hollywood, not Hollywood, Hollywood. There was Jesus and there was JFK, he said, two previous Christs. The idea in Hollywood is that we're waiting for the third and final savior, which would of course be the son of JFK. And that's who Q thinks it is. And he says it's going to be, quote, President White. So this video, Coma White, is about this coming savior president who would be the son of JFK. This is QAnon stuff, and this is from 1999. But what's more, and here's a picture from the Coma White video of JFK Jr., the clip's MTV premiere was delayed due to John F. Kennedy Jr.'s death. They delayed a Marilyn Manson video because JFK Jr. died. The premiere was delayed, and they were also, the band was also accused of inspiring the Columbine high school shooting. But it said here the premiere was delayed again in the summer due to the death of JFK Jr. Manson issued a statement, and he said it was a reenactment of the journey of death. And he said, quote, little did I know the tragedy at Columbine and the accidental death of JFK Jr. would soon follow. Little did I know. He said, quote, it was in no way mockery, but a tribute to men like Jesus Christ and JFK, who died at the hands of mankind's unquenchable thirst for violence. So there you have it. Marilyn Manson in connection to Kubrick, JFK, Westworld, and now he's on Nuclear Blast Records, which I think might be a huge clue as well. Its logo, radioactive symbol, and a flaming skull. And of course, again, the image I was referring to was had the emphasis on the single eye. Okay, now let's get back to this poll here. Who's the better crisis actor, Jussie Smollett or Donald Trump? Jussie Smollett. So Jussie Smollett faked his own lynching to get clicks, and then he got busted for it, and the whole thing fell apart. But I did this poll to see what people think. I thought, let's juxtapose these two. Let's see if I can find the results. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's IPS Insider. Alright, I'm scrolling through your comments. Ted Striker 2112 says, I accidentally found IPS over a year ago on Paranormal Radio. Yeah, you can find us on paranormal.radio. streaming there 24/7, and I haven't been consistently updating the 24/7 stream, and I need to do that. I need to put more time into this. So I want to say thanks and shout out to everyone who supports this channel. We had, I think this month, a record number of people on Patreon, a lot of people on the IPS site. There's a reason why we haven't fallen down off this raft, why we haven't had to take any lengthy breaks, and that's really all of you. Special thanks to Symbia, appreciate that generous super chat there. All right, I'm trying to find my, I think I might have found it. I'm looking for the poll, so just give me a moment, we'll be there. A couple other headlines. Olympic athlete vomits on live TV after being made to swim in polluted river at Paris Games. Okay, found it. Who's the better crisis actor? 33 votes, 2 days left. Donald Trump, 72%, Jussie Smollett, 27%. So that's where we're at right now. If you want to take that poll, I'll put a link in the chat below. Okay, moving on here. Ministry kicks Maryland's ass as Mingo Penguins. Ministry's been on InfoWars a few times. What's Happening says, what does a young Crip need to do to enter the Blue Wrench Lodge? No coffin stuff, right? We used to have a dungeon. It used to be, and thank you for the super chat. It used to be, you would comment and you'd have 500 people in the chat, all with moderator wrenches, and you would immediately get whacked. And then you end up in the dungeon, banned. And then you email infiniteplaying.society@gmail.com and you say, this is my username. Then I pull you out of the dungeon and hand you a wrench. So now you're unbannable. And we had filtered everyone through this process of a minor hazing. Diana South says, negative 20 degrees in the streets of Chicago at 2 a.m. Fake noose a prop. Yeah, he was going to Subway at 2 a.m. And his noose looked like it was made of yarn. Like he went to the craft store, like a Hobby Lobby. And he's there tying a noose around himself and the police show up. I mean, it was just one of the worst executed psyops I've ever seen. But my point in it is that I knew it was fake the second it happened. And I refrained from saying anything. I was like, I'm not going to say anything yet because of the nature of it. He was called the N-word. They dumped bleach on him. The guys had MAGA hats, and they strung him up in a tree. It's like extremely inflammatory. People were ready to march. But had I called it out fake, I would have been banned on YouTube. So I was like, okay, I have to wait. Well, 12 hours later, they find out it's a hoax. But nobody in the mainstream media knew it was a hoax right away. They assumed it was real. And this really emphasizes the split that I make between auto believers and auto hoaxers. Do you automatically believe the news is real? If so, then you're setting yourself up to be a dupe. Infinite Plane Radio.
Tim, this is Kevin Mooring. What's up, buddy?
Hey, good to hear from you. What topic has piqued your interest this Friday?
I don't know if you talked about it because I jumped in after you're already live. You talked about Kyle Rittenhouse yet?
That he's endorsing Ron Paul, and then I think a lot of people went after him. Cat Turd and others have turned their backs on Kyle, but I think he flipped. I think he flipped back. Have you heard that?
Yeah, well, see, what I was saying is they made him a heel like in wrestling when they turned bad, like when Hulk Hogan went to the NWO and he wasn't popular anymore. They're doing that same theater right now in the world. Do you know what I mean? They made him come out, and I mean, immediately everybody jumped on him. They were banning him. They're like, I'm never talking. You've lost my interest. You know what I mean? That quick. Just because he wants to vote for somebody else. Well, isn't that the right that we give everybody in the United States? Is you can have your own opinion, but he just put his out there, and everybody, you see how people act. They made him a bad guy, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I saw some people on the left calling this out as well, saying that they're calling him a traitor. And when you say traitor, and you're like MAGA stan, what you mean is you're gonna lose your head. Cat Turd said, "Bye forever." Now, for people who don't know, Cat Turd is a major right-wing influencer, and he said, "I can stomach a lot of things, but backstabbing millions and then turning on Trump, you will be forgotten forever." So they totally rip on Kyle.
Yeah, they made him bad. Like I'm saying, they made him a bad character when everybody else in the world, there was probably 30% thought that he was, a POS, but most everybody thought that he did the right thing. And then he voices I think the whole reason he ain't all on Trump is because Trump won't take a stand on the Second Amendment and say that, I'll never come for your guns. And you obviously know he's a gun carrying person. And so is Cat Turd. So I don't understand why. Do you get where I'm going with this?
Thank you for feeding the cracked in Phil in the
They're on
blank.
the same side.
The IPS
But
appreciates
he's
the
I'm going to
support.
endorse this guy because he stands for the Second Amendment more than Donald Trump. And that's all basically he was saying.
Now, do you think
And then
that
you have all these.
because
Go ahead.
there's someone copacetic in our Gilded has been tracking this narrative that seems to suggest that maybe Trump is going to ultimately backstab the Second Amendment on mental health grounds, that there has to be an excuse like red flag laws, that he's just been really not too strong on the Second Amendment.
Well, he just got shot with the Second Amendment. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. They can use that.
So-
Yeah,
So the guns are in play. They got Kyle Rittenhouse, Mr. Gun out there. He's the guy that actually used the gun to take out bad people, and then you got a bad person trying to take out what a lot of people think is a good person. You know what I mean? It's all this is all coming full circle right now. But I'm very interested for Sunday. I got my fingers crossed that nothing happens. But JL, he's been putting this shit together for a long time. And he was right to a certain extent, but he still says that ain't it. And if he says that ain't it, then there's more to come.
there has to be, because one thing, the shooting happened at 6:11, so like he's even all the little clues he's picked up on have been reflected in this. But Amazon put a warning label on the season finale of The Boys. Season 4, Episode 8. They put a warning label on it because the character Homelander that looks like Trump is involved in some near assassination attempt and has blood on his face. So I'm like, wait, they changed the name Assassination Run. 4-8? It's just too it's too close. It's too synced up. So I'm looking forward to the 4th as possibly an explosive day.
Well, also, this past week you had the Secret Service sniper memo that came out. Him saying that basically there's going to be another attempt on Trump. I mean, a sniper told him, that was a leaked memo. He's telling them there's going to be another one. And like we're saying with JL, there's going to be another one.
Yeah, and one more thing.
This
Hulk Hogan said, when they try to shoot the president, enough is enough. Right out of the Illuminati playing card. And then a few days later, Kamala Harris says, whatever happened to any time, any place? And she's referring to the debates. But any time, any place our snipers can take you out is the second part of the Illuminati card. So she called that out. Anytime, any place.
I'm going to get off here. I'm going to tell you, I'll keep listening. It should be a very interesting weekend for sure.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Kevin Mooring, and talk to you or call back anytime.
All right, buddy.
Thank you for feeding the crack Gwyn, Phil. Appreciate that very much. Phil in LeBlanc. The IPS appreciates the support. And yeah, Sunday, 8/4, season finale. And season 4, episode 8, again, of The Boys, was the season finale. And they changed the name from Assassination Run after the fact. And we had pointed this out on that day. If you haven't read it, I have an article, my top favorite 11 Trump shooting predictive programming examples. And I'll put a link in the chat if you haven't read this yet. But what I'm talking about on that one, and there are so many. The Boys Season 4, Episode 8, Assassination Run, the character Homeland based on Trump. And look at this face. Blood on his cheek. Blood on his face. Very Trumpy, but he had the 4-8. So again, we're talking about August 4th as being the date this happens. And the fact is, they have since changed the name Assassination Run. Why would they change it? This is them acknowledging indirectly that predictive programming is real, that there is an entrainment process between the entertainment media and the news media accomplished by synchronizing the two. The episode was previously titled Assassination Run, and now they renamed it Season 4 Finale. Season 4 Finale. Fascinating. Complete with the plot to kill the American president. Fascinating. I don't want to offer any spoilers. I haven't watched it, but again, anytime they acknowledge the predictive programming, it is such a big giveaway. And, you know, we talked about that fake prophet earlier. The prophet Brandon Biggs. And one of the way you can know he's fake and that he never talked to Jesus, or if he did, Jesus didn't talk back. One way you know he's fake is that he's claiming that this is a real event and that someone really died. No, that it's not real. And, you know, God wouldn't give you a vision for a theatrical staged fake event. A prophet wouldn't be prophesying propaganda events, simulations. I don't think it makes sense at that point. But again, another false prophet. And someone had asked, where are the real prophets? There aren't any. This is about time control. You know, they control time and space. And one of the ways they control time is by claiming to know the future. And they know it to the extent that they write it. We're living through a movie. We were dragged onto a movie set. This is now technically an alternate reality game. And it's a losing game. And it's rigged. And you can't win. You can only opt out. That would be the only winning move. And one of the earlier callers had mentioned how everything looks so terribly fake and performances are bad and it's unbelievable and it's a big mockery. Yeah, it's true. But you also have to remember that you, media skeptics, are in a very small minority of non-believers. The majority believe this crap. Rasal 888 says, the majority of the world's gullible will believe the fake resurrection to be true. Exactly. Linda Curtis says, it's telling that 8/4 happens to be on a Sunday. Kevin says, Joe Rogan live Saturday on Netflix. Symbia says, great calls today. Yeah, ever since I went back to the old phone number, the original phone number, we've had a lot more calls. So I think it says something about the phone system from Blog Talk that we abandoned. You know, Blog Talk Radio would not connect us from the day of, the day after, and then the third day from the shooting. And I realized, okay, this is not going to work. We're here to gather intel, and I'm not going to close up a major channel of communication because they can't hold up their end of their $40 a month bargain. And I think it was more than just gremlins chewing the wires. I think we were being blocked. Rasal Haig 888 says, Simpsons Season 8, Episode 16, Elvis Death Anniversary, quote, brother from another series, David Hyde Pierce blowing up the Springfield Dam. The breaking of the dam is very significant. Like Gotham goes underwater after a dam breaks on 11/6. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, Tim, it's me again. Now that you brought up Blog Talk Radio, I'm not sure if you're going to remember this, but do you remember I was telling you maybe a few weeks ago that there was a strange delay between your speech and my speech that made it very difficult, made it seem like we were not getting one another or stepping on each other? Remember I told you about that?
Yes.
There it is. You see, like you ended up. I'm not surprised at all that you end up having to abandon them because see, I knew it wasn't working for you.
It had to be intentional.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I suspected. That's why I gave you the heads up. I suspected it as much, and I was just going to be a matter of time before you were going to find out definitively, and that's obviously already happened. Yeah, I was kind of surprised at how badly it was working. You know, like why should it be so bad? It can't be a technological constraint, right?
No.
It's not going to be like they're lacking technology, right?
See, that's a great consideration here. We may have, quote, free speech, but that doesn't mean that there aren't different ways of throttling or marginalizing and really preventing free speech from doing any real good. And
yes, because the gag. There's a film with Richard Dreyfuss. It's not very well known. It should be better known, but it's called Moon Over Parador, where he's an actor that they get to impersonate a dead dictator so they can keep the regime going, right? And there's a scene in that film where a couple of citizens are looking at all the campaigning going on in the city, and one guy's looking at the posters, and he goes, I think I'm going to vote for so-and-so, and the other guy looks at him and says, hey, you can vote for whoever you want. It's a free dictatorship.
A free dictatorship. You know, that oxymoron makes
great.
perfect sense. Absolutely.
That's why I had to let you know that, because when you said that Blog Talk Radio tanked on you, I am not at all surprised by that. I'm glad that you found out definitively, and not who's providing it for you right now. Who is this number?
This is Google Voice, and it's the simplest operating system, and it takes voicemails, so you can leave voicemails. I get it by text, and it's even better now, because now it has the ability to put somebody on hold and take on another caller. So it's better than it was before.
Well, so far so good. Glad to hear it's working better. That's all I wanted to say. Anyhow, take care, man. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for the feedback. And yeah, I do recall he said that they're screwing with us back then. And yep, you were right about it. So let's look at some of these tweets. Again, Donald Trump's a better crisis actor than Jussie Smollett. Give him the Golden Hoggy Award. We've talked about the symbolism in the Olympics, Statue of Liberty damaged, and the bullet hole. See, look, let's see this. This has to connect. Trip to the moon, just as the movie comes out, Fly Me to the Moon, which is about faking the moon landing. And this trip to the moon has a bullet in the right eye of the moon's face. This moonshot. Very interesting symbol. And then you have the busted up Statue of Liberty, the broken crown, which we've connected to the Mountain Dew Liberty Chill and Freezing Fusion and Pitch Black. All these, Star Spangled Splash, these all connect. Liberty Chill, like chill on Liberty, lockdowns, and Statue of Liberty's not wearing her crown. Now you have this with the broken crown. We're talking about Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew flavors. And so the Mountain Dew was brought up in the news because J.D. Vance made some cringy comment about Mountain Dew. And all of a sudden we're hearing Mountain Dew. And we're looking at the different Mountain Dew cans. And the Pitch Black one came true. You have the blackout. You got Freedom Fusion, which I think fusion could reference the H-bomb. So you have the Statue of Liberty busted up here because why? Planet of the Apes. Mutual assured destruction. Mankind has nuked itself into the Stone Age, and this thing's buried up to its waist. But they brought this up for a reason. And intriguingly, you see the ISS right behind the Statue of Liberty. Don't know what that means exactly, but it must mean something. And they're going to have to bring it down soon. They're already talking about it openly all the time. They're supposedly going to pay Elon Musk something like 666 million pounds to bring it down. Okay, let's go ahead and play this clip. This is... Now, everybody who's anybody in the right wing has been saying Trump's going to get it. That's why that prophet has no credibility with me, because nobody predicted it. Some people are like, I predicted it 3 months ago. Listen to this clip. You didn't predict it. You parroted what was being said by every single mockingbird in the alt media. So here's James O'Keefe from Project Veritas, now O'Keefe Media Group, where he wears disguises and he gets these people to divulge their company's deepest secrets. It's all theater. Just drama class stuff. It's like a student drama class. It's not even real. James O'Keefe is a fake reporter. He doesn't know about crisis actors. He doesn't know the news is fake. He's in their system. He's lost in their world, or he's brainwashed, or maybe he knows. Maybe he's a cynical manipulator. I happen to think he's just not fully in the know. But here he is, as though he has some kind of inside knowledge that they're going to try to stop Trump.
You asked about the assassination. My thoughts are as follows. I think there's going to be a series of black swan events between now and the election. The day before that happened, someone said, what do you think? Everyone's always trying to predict the future. I said, listen, all bets are off. Something crazy is going to happen. We don't know what it is. So I think what's going to happen is more crazy things, black swan events. At least 2 of them will happen before Election Day that will throw everything into a state of flux.
2 black swan events. So the world's going to end 2 times in the next 2 weeks. And now here we have Jesse Waters. And we talk about the JFK Jr. imitators. The new one is Edward X. You got Vincent Fuchsia, -48, 107. All these false JFK Juniors. Well, here's another one. He's not a false JFK Jr. from his own mouth, but Jesse Waters was believed by many to be JFK Jr., even though he's like 20 years too young for this. But Jesse Waters is a Fox pundit, and the QAnon people believe that since Q said watch the water, it means watch Jesse Waters. Yeah. So here's Jesse Waters talking about a Secret Service whistleblower who's going to warn of the new plot to kill Trump.
A Secret Service counter sniper is predicting another assassination attempt before November. In an email obtained by Real Clear Politics, a Secret Service agent with 20 years experience on the counter sniper team is announcing he's going to blow the whistle until all of his supervisors are fired. The counter sniper says his mission is to prevent another JFK style.
JFK. They have to throw in JFK style, the JFKification of Donald Trump. And I coined that word, that phrase, JFKification of Donald Trump in June, in expectation that we would be experiencing this. And they have been merging JFK with Trump for some time. Referring back to the 4th of July parade shooting by Robert Crimo with the 47 on his head and the Lee Harvey Oswald newspaper on his wall, you had the sniper in play for some time. And we've decoded this. And much of what we have found in the Metascript analysis has comported nicely with everything that Jurassic Liars has pointed out.
Assassination. And the only reason that hasn't happened is because they've gotten lucky. He says Secret Service leadership is corrupt and states clearly, quote, "We all should expect another assassination attempt to happen before November."
So put that on your calendar, before November. And their presupposition is that it's going to be real. Alex Jones thinks it's real. Either they are lost in the dream world or they are operatives who know that they are creating hyperstitions and psyops to manipulate the mass mind. Ryler05 says, there's a lot of Mountain Dew flavors. They aren't all predictive programming. Texas sharpshooter fallacy. I think you can make that claim with The Simpsons, but with Mountain Dew, you had the Maui Blast Dew, and it wasn't just that we're cherry picking. I walked in to a Walmart on August 9th, and I saw a floor-to-ceiling stack of Mountain Dew Maui Blast. Do the Dew, direct energy weapon, Maui gets blasted. And I thought, okay, that's weird. Then we see the Star Spangled Splash in time for the Francis Scott Key Bridge to splash into the water. So then we're looking forward to Liberty Chill for July. What's going to happen in July? Well, Liberty Chill suggested something. And then we have the Statue of Liberty motif being brought up. And I just mentioned how the trailer before Fly Me to the Moon was for Francis Ford Coppola's Megaopolis. And it opens up with space junk falling, which makes me think of the ISS behind the Statue of Liberty, and the Statue of Liberty looking beat up. So there's been a pretty consistent correlation, and then one of them was Pitch Black. So what are the odds? You got Maui, Star Spangled Splash, Liberty Chill with the Broken Crown, and Pitch Black. And all of them seem to have come into play in the last 12 months. And on top of it, we're only looking at Mountain Dew because J.D. Vance makes some nonsensical statement about Mountain Dew and couches, and all of a sudden, Mountain Dew is out there. So I think it might be more than just Texas sharpshooter fallacy with the Mountain Dew. Well, we have to keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on the Mountain Dews. And I think it's fascinating because we're looking at predictive programming in movies, comics, video games, and now on products, in commercials. I mean, it's everywhere. It's immersive. Code Red was the 2001 flavor, says Ryler05. Kevin Mooring says Snoop carried the Illuminati flame at the Olympics. Okay, I was mentioning the Baphomet and the torch. He's carrying Baphomet's torch. The symbol of the torch, symbol of enlightenment, the underground information, the chain of information, the marathon, the passing of the torch through the underground traditions. It's all implied in Baphomet and the Templars, the underground, how they go underground in 1312, come back in 1717. So the torch is a symbol of the underground traditions, the mystery schools, the torchlit grottos, the caves. So for Snoop Dogg, to be holding the torch, wearing the goat, is 100% Baphomet. There's no way he can back out of that. I saw a list of names I want to go over here. This is where it's at. It says O'Keefe is one of them. He's not like us. No, he's not. He is gate-kept. He's a gatekeeper. He's a performance artist. I actually suggested to him that he puts on a clever disguise, like a fake mustache, maybe some glasses and a hat, and then join the Secret Service, and then record one of them undercover at a bar and see if they'll talk about the Trump assassination. That's his MO. Like, if you see a guy that looks vaguely like James O'Keefe, only he's got glasses on, don't spill all the secrets that you signed an NDA that you would never spill, because he's probably recording you. Like, how do people keep falling for it? G says, wondering if IPS thinks Whitney Webb is legit investigative journalist or an alarming fear merchant. Let's take a look. It'll take me a few seconds to figure it out. Whitney Webb, internet personality, independent investigator, self-investigative journalist at Unlimited Hangout. I'll have to do some investigation into this, because a lot of people have their hearts in the right places, but that's not good enough. Good intentions will not lead you out of the MSM box or its subset MSM Plus. HG says, where do these investigative journalists fit in the fake MSM ecosphere? Okay, so journalists are supposed to speak truth to power, hold the powerful accountable. Well, mainstream doesn't do it, and so you have these independent voices that fill in that gap. So you're supposed to believe that there are undercover investigations going on, that people are exposing these things, and that they got it covered. So you would call them controlled opposition. James O'Keefe, controlled opposition. He's like, here's my telegram. If you have any information about this PSYOP, send it to me. Yeah, they're gathering data to know who knows what, to make sure that everybody is at the appropriate level of dumb. They need dumbed down media consumers, not skeptics. So he's to control that. John says, no surprise Mountain Dew, a weaponized poison, would carry predictive programming. Right. Ollie Goering says, James O'Keefe is the Mr. Beast of journalism. Well, James O'Keefe is known for angering a lot of the people at his Project Veritas, because what he did is he took all the money they were getting, which was a lot, and then he would throw lavish parties, mostly hire choreographers. They'd do these dance videos dressed up like agents and police. So it was mostly like performance art and dancing. And then on top of it, whenever they made public appearances, they would insist on showing up in black SUVs, black suits. So they spent a lot of money on the presentation. In fact, if you look into James O'Keefe and his whole organization suing him and why he lost it, I think it's because he spent all their money on black SUVs and dancers. Yeah, the board's grievances with his use of black cars, that was a huge part of it. The audit found that Veritas spent $208,000 on black cars and $600 for bottled water. Just extravagant spending. He bought $2,500 worth of... There's a list here. I want to go through the list. DJ equipment. He spent $12,000 on a helicopter ride from New York to Maine. So you're just talking about him just having a party. And why wouldn't he? He's not really investigating anything. If we had Project Veritas's budget, the mainstream media would have a problem on its hands. And it knows it. Or certain elements of it know. James O'Keefe is a fake threat to the system, a fake undercover journalist. Russell Haig 888 says, Liberty Chill reference to Remo Williams' film poster art, and he's dangling from the crown. Okay. Well, let's look at Liberty Chill and why I'm saying this is significant. Okay, so Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner, Star Spangled Splash, a reference to the bridge, the Francis Scott Key Bridge falling into the river. Now the thing about the Francis Scott Key reference here is it references the national anthem. The national anthem has some special significance to BLM, Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem. Trump is the one who had Kaepernick blacklisted, so there's that dialectic, Trump versus Kaepernick. Proud Boys versus BLM, Western chauvinism versus BLM. There's this thing that's been brought up, this 1619 project versus 1776. 1619 being the year that the first Africans were transplanted here for slavery according to the official histories. So the 1619 project, and Kaepernick's pretty involved in that. His whole body of literature and all of his publications, his company, it's all tied to this thing. Well, at the Golden Gate Bridge, you had a Francis Scott Key monument that was vandalized by BLM. So BLM vandalizes a monument commemorating the guy that wrote the Star Spangled Banner. Later, that monument is replaced by a monument to the 1619 project, where they have something commemorating the first Africans transplanted here. So you have that connection, 1619. Well, if you watch Leave the World Behind, the big boat crashes into the shore, and the emergency broadcast is on 1619. The boat is called White Lion. Well, the ship that transported the enslaved Africans was called the White Lion. So White Lion, 1619, Francis Scott Key, national anthem. These are all correlated very strongly. And it goes even deeper. Leave the World Behind came out on JFK's death day, but it was released on Netflix on 12/8. Well, the bridge was hit at 1:28 a.m. In the movie Leave the World Behind, you see the Brooklyn Bridge, which was recently hit by a crane and damaged. You see it at 1 hour 28 minutes. So there's a lot here to show how these phrases and symbols are actually integrated into the bigger metascript and the overlapping of entertainment and news media. So here you have Liberty Chill, and the Statue of Liberty's crown is not on her head. That has to have some significance. Again, going back to the opening scenery from the Olympics, and you have the Statue of Liberty, and her crown is broken. Liberty Chill. Again, having another meaning. So then we have the pitch black one, and we had the blackouts at the Paris Olympics, so that might be related. Another thing about pitch black, Super Bowl 47 was the blackout bowl. Colin Kaepernick, another reference to the national anthem. Now, in 2013, he hadn't started that yet, the kneeling, but he's the quarterback during the blackout bowl, where it goes dark for 33 minutes. Probably not a coincidence that now we're in the presidential race for President 47. So Super Bowl 47, President 47. And the Super Bowl halftimes have always had significance in this way. That's why the last quarterback, Brock Purdy, was compared to Lee Harvey Oswald. Well, that obviously correlates to the Weeknd's performance, where he's running around with a head wound. Let's move on from Mountain Dew. These are all just interesting bits of connections here. We have a couple other points I wanted to get to. I have a few other polls. We finished this poll. Are chemtrail fearmongers worse than climate change activists? And climate nutters have 50%. Chemtrail people are worse, only 20%. Now, in this poll, 25% believe in chemtrails, 4% believe in climate change. But most people find climate nutters to be worse than chemtrail nutters. And that's because the chemtrail nutters don't do activism. They just post a bunch of dumb stuff. And by dumb, I mean intentional ignorance. Arguments from ignorance, appealing to the ignorant. Disingenuous, dishonest. When you get down to it, the alt media is not so different from the mainstream. Not at all. I mentioned earlier that the transvestigationists were the most confused people on earth. So they're looking at this fight situation between the boxers that I kind of alluded to. It's the current thing, but it's the fight between Imani Khalif and Angela Carini, who has since apologized for her response for being a sore loser or whatever. However you look at it, I think it's a psyop. I think it's meant to create this outrage, but the transvestigationists don't believe the story. They don't believe that it was a biological male beating a woman. They believe that Angela Carini is a man and that Imani Khalif is a woman. This is the transvestigationists, Pancho Pete, Tia Gloria, sharing images. Again, I can't imagine what it's like living with this level of confusion. I feel sorry for their pets. They probably confuse their cats with dogs, their birds with fish. They are 100% inverted or reverted. You got inversion, reversion. How many times have they somersaulted in their minds to arrive at the conclusion that we witnessed a woman beating a man on the world stage, and then a lot of people on the right thinking it's the opposite? It's super subjective. Kevin Mooring says, have you seen Lee Harvey Oswald's wife? I did see a picture. She's still alive. I was surprised. I'm going to go through the rest of my tweets. I had a number of things earmarked I didn't want to miss. So we talked about the athlete vomiting after swimming in the river at the Paris Olympics. Okay, here's a prediction. We Got the Code predicts they're going to blow up the Eiffel Tower on August 12th. I don't even know how you would blow it up or why. Civil unrest in Sunderland, England. It's all performative. It's all performative. They scream freedom, freedom. We're doing this for freedom. It's like they already have your minds. Like, they're not going to take your guns. They're not going to put you in FEMA camps. You live in a home FEMA camp. The FEMA camp is like a... They don't even talk about it anymore, but truthers used to say they're going to round us up and put us in FEMA camps. No, they're going to make you go, they're going to send you to your room. Go to your rooms and watch Netflix programming for the next year. Rasal Haig 888 says they would need thermite cables around all four legs of the Eiffel. But how would they do it? Fly a plane into it? Maybe that's it. Fly a plane. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it's a strategic or symbolic enough of a target. The Space Needle is damned. I mean, Space Needle is convicted. We've already unpacked that thing. It's got more predictive programming pre-announcing its destruction than the Twin Towers. Say thanks to all the callers and supporters of the channel. We would not be able to maintain this continuity of a parallel media take on the mainstream and alternative without all of your support. Humberto Darkregard says, pro tip, if you see a guy in a restaurant that looks vaguely like James O'Keefe and he's wearing glasses, don't spill all your secrets. Yep. I cannot believe any of those. These James O'Keefe undercover stings, they're hiring actors to read scripts and pretend like they're revealing something. It never leads anywhere. Dinah South says, I don't own a TV. I can't see Netflix. Probably better for your mind. There are a few ways of looking at it. You know, I feel like if you're aware of it, the programming doesn't work. But if you're unaware of it, I think it all works. But I happen to like a lot of it. That's the thing. You know, the State Church of MSM does recruit the best artists, writers, directors to become part of their programming class. Pango33 says UFO lands on the Eiffel Tower. That would be actually pretty nice. Then Trump shows up, steps out of it wearing a Elvis jumpsuit. Like, we need some kind of plot twist. All right, I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover. We'll continue this definitely tomorrow. This Infinite Plane Saturday is going to be big. And then we also want to do full coverage for Sunday. Not exactly sure what's going to happen, but Sunday is going to be big as well. Again, thanks callers, thanks chatters. This archive will be going out to your inbox, so if you subscribe to the newsletter below, you'll get that sent to you this evening. And this is Auto Hoaxology by Symbia. I'll put a link to this track below as well.
Chemtrails, I don't live in Truthville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't believe in chemtrails, I don't live in Truthville. Just because you saw it on the screen doesn't make it real. I don't take the red pill, I don't take the blue pill. I just choose to follow my dreams, auto hoax and chill. I stepped off the world stage and I moved away from all the fake outrage and the hearsay. And I don't give the time of day to those that naysay, because they got a bad case of the mind age. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in their lame dichotomy. I've stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading out of hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading out of hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, out of hoaxology. Walk with the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, rejecting all the expectations of the auto-believer, to become a new creation on the raft of receiver. Standing on the sword of truth, I stab the backs of deceivers, demanding burdens further proof from all the hacks and believers. I stepped away from the game entirely. I won't be caught up in the lame dichotomy. I stepped away from the cage entirely. I'm free today and my mind's been set by reading auto hoaxology, out of the control system finally. I know where to go if you follow me, cause I've been reading auto hoaxology. Nothing can bother me, auto hoaxology. Walk with the screen before it's blasphemy. I won't become another mind war casualty. I came up out the realm of possibility to take the helm of this reality. Cause I've been chillin', reading out of hoaxology, suspending all the judgment, you won't get a reaction. Won't defend it, I won't budge until I get all the facts in. I won't argue with the bots about the next current thing, crying over the fake bodies like a bitter death clinger. I've been reading auto hoaxology. Nothing can bother me.